Chair, first of all, Governor, I am an increasingly very frustrated senator for the County of Nairobi because, as you have mentioned yourself, there's quite a number of invitations that have been pending, and we are unable to have certain conversations with you. I am aware that we had scheduled meetings with the County Public Accounts Committee to look into the status of projects in the county. We had a meeting with the Devolution Committee, which you were invited as well, which you did not show up. County Public Investments Committee to look into the status of our hospitals, which you did not show up. Of course, there was the Education Committee on the question of ECDs. So there is such a big backlog of conversations that need to happen on this floor. And I feel that you have to find a way to show up more to these Senate conversations, because this, as you have said yourself, these are important conversations, but these things are piling up and it is becoming increasingly difficult. I don't know how you propose to deal with this issue so that we are able to have these conversations in the Senate. Secondly, Honorable Chair, I don't know how you run this committee, but I am also in other committees, and documents such as this being tabled on the morning of the meeting, it is going to be impossible for you to go through this. I was asking the clerk here, because I've worked with you in other committees, my brother. First, there are certain instructions that you send to the entity so that you can have a meaningful conversation on the date of submission of documents and the number of copies to be submitted. Now, I'm looking at this. Maybe Governor can confirm. Are these the only copies that we all have to share, or there are copies enough for the committee? Number two, being tabled on the day of the meeting, Gatia, surely, how are we going to proceed and process all these documents?
Honorable Senator, I want to confirm that they tabled these documents on 17th to the clerk of the National Assembly of the Senate on 17th, and I think this is our internal doing. And since this is an inquiry, and most of those questions are straightforward, we'll just deal as, I don't know whether you've been given our file, Ngatia, which has all the questions. So the governor will guide us through the answers, and you'll be guided also by the questions that we asked. So have you given Honorable Sifuna our file, our internal file? That is the set of the questions we asked. So I will now ask the governor to...
Chair, maybe to comment on that just a little bit concerning the clerk of the committee. You should supply this information to the sitting senator immediately. They are delivered. You know, the message, the responses are given to the committee. The sitting senator should receive them immediately so that they can go through them before they appear here. Thank you.
Very correct. Actually, I'm the one who noted, and I asked because I've been following whether the responses have come, and I'm the one actually who noted that the responses came on 17th as per. So clerk, please, can you note that? It's very important so that the sitting senator can be able to verify that information and even guide the committee in case there's anything to be followed. So, Your Excellency, please, let's go to, you have to be taken on oath. Clerk.
How did you know I'm a Christian? I, Sakaja Johnson, do solemnly swear that the evidence that I shall give before this committee in respect of the matters before the committee shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Thank you. Thank you. Your Excellency, now let's go straight to the inquiry and lead us in your responses.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I take your direction and I note the concerns that have been raised. There are very many questions that have been just read what we have. And where we need further clarification, allow me to have my CC, Brian Mulama, and Director of Education to support. The first question, Chair, is a list of public and private ECD centers indicating enrollment of the learners disaggregated by gender in PP1 and PP2 and by sub-county and number of teachers per ECD center. Chair, we have 230 public ECD centers with an enrollment of 32,135 and 967 teachers. So close to 1,000 teachers, and we intend to recruit more of these teachers in the next financial year. There are approximately 839 private ECD centers with 2672 teachers. However, Chair, we do not have complete data of the private pre-primary schools, as registration is done by the County Education Board. These are matters we're dealing with the IGTRC, because these are devolved function. That really the regulating private ECDs is a function. It was unbundled in the last Gazette notice, but the instruments that follow have not yet been done by the Ministry of Education. And so we want the Senate support to make sure that this is fully moved to counties. I have attached in Annex 1 the list of these ECD centers, public and private. Second question, Chair, is on the number of public ECD centers.
Members, I urge that you note your observations and your queries so that we can forward them to him later.
Thank you, Chair. The number of public ECD centers located within primary schools, those that are standalone and those that are in informal settlements. Chair, we said 200 of these are domiciled in public primary schools and 30 standalone centers. There are 149 in informal settlements, and we've attached the list. And Chair, I'm sure you have dealt with this in many other counties. Nairobi is peculiar because the public primary schools are also owned by the county government in Nairobi. And so we consider the entire schools. It is not, we don't have ECD centers located in primary schools. We have primary schools located in our ECD centers because we own the title, that's our land. Number 3, it's a breakdown of the construction costs of ECD centers, other infrastructure within the center, and sample photos, which we have attached, BQs, architectural plans and photos. The costs vary, Chair, depending on different factors like terrain, soil, etc. Approximately 18 million. It ranges from even lower 11 million depending on the number of classes. But the standard one is 3 classrooms, an ablution block, an office, and a kitchen. Chair. The amount of fees charged per learner in public ECD centers, specifying contributions by parents and county government. Chair, we offer free pre-primary education to all learners enrolled in our public ECD centers. We disperse capitation grants to these centers. And I have annexed in Annex 4 the free ECD guidelines and the circular that outload charges to parents. Normally the capitation, Chair, is 100 million shillings. Chair, the transition rates from primary to secondary school and from secondary school to universities, our transition rate, Chair, is 100%. We have full transition, and we even have more children joining from other centers into our primary schools. We do not have the transition from primary to secondary schools officially, but I know it's also 100% in Nairobi because the secondary schools are fewer than the primary schools. But that's a mandate of the national government, Chair. Number 6 is the comprehensive details on teachers, the number per center, the qualifications, cadres, pay structure, salaries, terms of employment, teacher-pupil ratio, ICD center, the teachers employed by parents, prioritize and transitioned to the county payroll during recruitment, indicating details of any refresher, retooling conducted for pedagogical skills development. Chair, all the pre-primary school teachers are employed by the county government under permanent and pensionable terms. Certificate holders employed at job group G while diploma teachers are at job group H as per the ECD teacher scheme of service. Currently, Chair, the teacher pupil ratio is 1:33. Our goal ideally is for it to be 1:25. Volunteer teachers who are working in public ECD centers were prioritized during the last recruitment of 2022. Continuous teacher development programs have been ongoing where teachers are retooled on various topics. Chair, I've annexed the list of the employed ECD teachers and also the continuous teacher development programs in Annex 5. Budgetary allocation and actual expenditure in the education sector since the 2022-23 financial year to date, specifying allocations for development and current votes for ECD, county vocational training, county bursaries and scholarships. Chair, I have also attached that. In 2022-23, the total was 2.3 billion, followed by 2 billion in the following year and 2.312 in 2024-25, both recurrent and development. In 2024-25, it was $500 million in development because we're building more classrooms. We have a serious shortage of classrooms in Nairobi. And the other numbers are there. And the current, of course, is the highest cost at 1.8 billion. And the actual expenditure is also attached. Chair, the list of beneficiaries and amount allocated for bursaries and scholarships to secondary education, VTCs, colleges, TVETs, or university education in financial year 22-23, 23-24, and 24-25 against the total fee requirement of the applicants. Chair, in the last financial year, we've had a challenge with the control of budget on the issue of bursaries and scholarships, and so there was no expenditure on that. In 22-23, there was 74,000 for. No, this cannot be right. Chair, I'll correct that table. On scholarships, it is 249.88 and 5100. On bursaries, the number is much higher because every term we issue bursaries worth 2.5 million first term, 2.5 million second term, and 2 million third term. So that the number is actually 119,000.
Chair, maybe you can point which table is referring to, because it says you change.
Number 8 on page 3.
Number 8, page 3.
Number 8 on the word bursary. And I asked him to correct. Yeah. Because Chair, what happens in the bursaries?
There is a figure you have mentioned that is not on page 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I need to correct.
That's what she's looking for. Yes. We are looking for those other figures of 2 point something billion.
That is the table above, Chair, in terms of the total.
So he'll correct that and then before we finish it.
The other table is correct. It's this on number 8. The number of beneficiaries. Chair, let me explain. The number of checks can be this 69,433, but it's not the same beneficiary. When you issue the bursaries, it is based on those who come and apply and are given the word bursaries. And so many times you find that it is different first term, these students might get second term, a different set third term. But the scholarship is specific students who are supported from Form 1 to Form 4. And that's a specific number. And so currently the 5,100 of them on our scholarship. We've had that challenge. Yesterday we had a meeting with the Control of Budget as the Council of Governors. There are certain requirements the Control of Budget asked for counties, including an intergovernmental agreement. And the Control of Budget actually said only 4 counties have been able to comply. That is Nairobi, Makueni, Murang'a, and one other county. We have gazetted the intergovernmental agreement. We have notified the county assembly and we have sent a notification to the National Assembly on bursaries and scholarships. That was the criteria that the COB said every county must follow, because she sees it as a transfer of function, really, which and as much as we may not agree, we have to comply with that. So those are the numbers. And Chair, just for illustration purposes, for the sake of the Senate, in the past 2 years that we've been able to provide bursaries and scholarships, the entire expenditure has been 1.88 billion. Contrasted with the last 10 years of Nairobi County government, which was 3 billion. In 10 years, the expenditure was 3 billion. In our first 2 years, it was 1.88 billion until the COB stopped that matter, but we budgeted it to proceed to go on. Number 9 is details when the last quality assessment of ECD centers, both private and public, were conducted. Quality assessment of ECD centers, Chair, is a continuous exercise. In the year 2025, the assessment has so far been done to 220 of these schools, the public schools, and 77 private pre-primary schools. We've attached samples of the quality assurance reports of both public and private. Chair, the next question is on details on the school feeding program, specifying nutrition components, feeding frequency, beneficiary centers, costs, sponsorship sources, and to analyze trends, enrollment trends since the start of the program. Chair, in a brief summary, this program that we run covers all our public schools, both pre-primary and primary schools. We have 316,000 beneficiaries of this program that get a meal each and every single day, Chair. The nutritional components of the school meal is carbohydrates, which is rice, protein sources of legumes, beans and green grams, vitamin A-rich vegetables, other vegetable cabbages, fortified oil, iodized salt. Once in a while there is meat in the diet, and of course other condiments and fruits. Chair. The feeding frequency is every day. For the pre-primary, we start with the fortified porridge, the mid-morning snack, and then the hot lunch, which we must make sure is hot, Chair. That is a dish in a county meal. The beneficiary ECD centers is 31 public ECD centers. Cost per meal every school day. The cost to the parent is 5 shillings, Chair. The breakdown is that there's a county subsidy of 25, a sponsorship source of 25, and the parent does 5, Chair. The enrollment trend since the start of the program, Chair, in ECD, enrollment increased by 29%. We had 27,100 learners, and in 2023 moved to 35,000. In primary schools, the enrollment increased by 40%, from 213,000 thereabout to 316. It actually went up by 40% in our primary schools, Chair. And I can give more details, Chair, if required, around that program, because it has a developmental component as well as a recurrent component. We had to physically build the central kitchens. We've built 17 central kitchens across the county, each of them doing a minimum of 15,000 meals a day. And we entered into a contract with a partner who executes the program, Chair, that is Food for Education. And they also get support because they do a national program as well in other counties. But in other counties, it is mainly for porridge provision. The support provided to ECD and vocational training by non-state actors in the county, Chair, the NGOs like UNICEF, among others, that provide capacity strengthening support to ECD teachers and vocational training. We've annexed in Annex number 9 the UNICEF report of 2025. Submit copies of ECD schemes of service, Chair. We've submitted the curriculum designs, which has been asked for, national pre-primary policy, national pre-primary policy and standard guidelines of 2018, and the ECE Act of 2021, that is in Annex 10. The number and locations of child daycare centers in the county categorized by public and private ownership. Chair, this we will be able to provide the mapping is ongoing. There are very, very many of these childcare centers. We'll provide the requested data once we complete the mapping exercise. The number of public libraries established in the county, the operational status of each library, staffing levels and qualifications of personnel managing the libraries.
Just a moment, Governor.
Yes.
I think members, you agree that we first top at that, and then we can do the ECDE, then we can come to the libraries and PTCs. Members, please, are you ready to interrogate that information? Before Vice, you go, there's a request by the Nairobi Senator. He's going for another meeting. If he can give us the information he has on ECD, then we can interrogate the document. And I've allowed him to do that.
Thank you, Chair, for your kind indulgence. Ordinarily, the members of the committee would have a first bite at it, but Governor, there are some concerns when it comes to ECDs that I wanted you to address. Some of the information that you've given us here is a bit general, and we wanted to address the serious concerns. First of all, I had an engagement with residents of Roysambu Ward. You are aware of that engagement. Roysambu Ward, Honorable Chair, is one of the largest wards in terms of population, but that entire ward has no public ECD. So when I was there was a piece of land that I was shown, somewhere on Lumumba Drive, just off Lumumba Drive, that had allegedly been grabbed by some church that had been set aside for a public ECD. So, Governor, in terms of specific wards such as Roysambu that do not have an ECD center, it would be important for you to address what your government is doing in order to have the kids who live in Roysambu Ward also have access to ECD facilities. Secondly, Honorable Chair, I have 4 wards here that have only one ECD, despite having very large populations. In Kayole Central, we have one at Bondeni. I think it was put together in 2024. And you know the population in that area, Governor. Mihango Ward in Embakasi East, we have only one ECD. And then Ruai in Kasarani, which is, I think, the largest ward, has only one center, Honorable Chair, making it very difficult for many kids to access. And then lastly, in Korogosho ward of Waraka, where we only have one public ECD center, which is very under-resourced and overcrowded. Governor, I'm sure if you visit.
So is it Mihango, Ruai?
Kayole Central, Mihango in Embakasi East, Ruai in Kasarani, which is the largest ward, and then Korogosho in Waraka. Then there are wards that have incomplete and under-resourced ECD centers, Honorable Chair, and these are the ones that I would want you to address again, Governor. In Jiru Ward in Kasarani, the centers are incomplete. Some of them don't even have toilets and play areas. Madare North in Waraka, this one we found that they have very high people to teacher ratios. Dandora Area 4 in Embakasi North, which are in very poor condition, Governor. Then in Molem in Embakasi West, they have only one center that has no space. And I think also there was a concern about the lack of trained ECD teachers in Molem. So if those ones can be addressed, Honorable Chair, we want to see what the governor's plan is in terms of addressing these concerns. So we have only 228 of those ECD centers across 85 wards, and we would ideally, Governor, wish to have 2 to 3 centers per ward based on the population density. And then we saw in your budget in 2024, you only allocated 116 million shillings to complete these told ones that I have mentioned in Jiru, in Madare North, in Dandora, and in Modem. So I think those are the concerns that we have. And then finally, Chair, on the school feeding program, this is a pet project of the governor. He's usually very proud of it. But there is a conversation we have had, Governor, since the inception of this program. He knows that 70% of the school-going children in Nairobi are not actually in public schools. they are in informal schools, those ones that they call upbeat schools. The governor gave an undertaking, I think it's been 2 years now, that feeding program would be extended to the informal schools, because what is essentially happening is that we are using that 1.8 billion shillings that he's talking about to feed only 30% of our school-going kids, and that is unfair. It is unfair, and most of these kids in these informal schools is not that they would not want to be in those public primary schools, but we simply don't have the space to feed all of those students there. So, Governor, where are we on the promise you made to extend the feeding program to the upbeat schools? I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Senator. And since you are leaving, I'll request the Governor to answer that, and then we can move on.
Thank you, Chair, for those questions from my Senator. Chair, some of the information is not correct. I'll start with the issue of the wards without ECDs. Roysambu ward has Roysambu Primary, which has an ECD. There is also, I've just seen over here, Marurui Preschool is also in Roysambu ward. So there are actually two in that ward. Roysambu Preschool and Marurui. Roysambu Primary is not in Roysambu ward, but it's just right next. It's in Zimmerman ward, but it's right next. Some of our wards are so close to each other that not every ward has, but ideally you want every ward to have, an ECD, but they're really close. The wards that need the most attention are the vast wards, like Wewe. Wewe is the biggest ward possibly actually it's the biggest ward in the county, and in the Wewe ward we have there are actually 6. There's Wewe Primary, there's Gitwambu, there's Highway Manyata, there's Ngondo, Athi, and Kamulu. Those ones have ECD centers. I think what maybe the concern was being raised is standalone ECDs that may not exist.
That is what we are talking about.
But these are within our primary schools. In Miango, we have Miango Primary, we have Skyway, we have GSU, we have Utawala. That is next to that ward. What is this? UCAP as well. Kayole Central, we have 3. There is Imara Primary, Buneni in Mongaza. We also have one that, you see, some of these might not find themselves in the education budget. They're in the ward-based program budget. So I know in Kayole Central, for instance, we built a brand new full ECD through the ward-based program budget in that ward. And I think the response really should be amended to incorporate those ones that are built not through the education budget per se, but also through the ward-based program. Many MCAs, or rather the ward committees, prioritize either adding classrooms or building standalone ECTs. But that piece of land that we're talking about in Roysambu is something that we're actually following up, even with the National Land Commission to get back. Chair, we did an exercise beginning 2022 of getting title deeds for our schools. It's been an ongoing discussion. Many of the schools, we had the original titles, actually around 100 of them, because all of these were county properties. The challenge that came with NLC was them saying which function is delivered in that school. Is it a national function or a county function? And they made an attempt to say that they will produce the titles and give them to the national government, which we opposed as Nairobi, because we have not transferred that asset to the national government. So even as the language we should have is not that we have ECD centers in primary schools. It is that we have primary schools in our ECD centers. Because the government entity that owns and builds that infrastructure is the county government, So that is where we have, we're still going back and forth, and there's a transition at NLC right now. But we secured most of those schools in terms of titles. I can give the list of those those that we gave copies of the titles for them to know, we can be able to furnish this
so
committee.
on the land in Lumumba Drive, what is the status now?
That is also within MC. It's part of what we've asked for reservation.
Is the matter in court?
No, there's no court matter on that. There's no court matter. And Chair, we've actually been able to get more land than just that. 1,000 and something parcels of land that came to be owned by the county through surrender, through subdivisions. You know, you do a subdivision, you do provision for public utilities. And so many of those now are at NLC for what we call reservation to the county government, so that we can have space to build more schools. It is true, there is a severe shortage of schools in Nairobi. And that's a historical problem, you know, and a political problem. You know, since 1992, when multipartyism started, very few schools were built in the city. When the national government at that point lost grip of the county. And so you find, and I'm sure in many of your counties, Senator Kamar, when we started the school feeding program in Roysambu, the president was shocked that we had 210 public schools, and he gave the example when he was an MP of Eldoret North, he had 150 schools in one constituency, yet we have 17 constituencies, which is why we moved to build 5,000 classrooms. The national government through CDF doing 3,500 and the county government targeting to do 1,500 classrooms, because we must bring those children from the informal schools to public schools. These informal schools, or rather APBET schools, and I've had a lot of interaction with the chair of APBET and the teachers, or Wakono etc. They're not the ideal school for a child to be in. You know, those schools, we had a case of one collapsing and children dying. The infrastructure is not concrete. The school is a church on Sunday, on Monday it's a women's meeting, Tuesday it's karate. You know, they're really not ideal, chair, for our children. And so we really need affirmative action for Nairobi County. And Chair, we would appeal to the Senate also to consider a conditional grant to bring Nairobi to the level of other counties in terms of number of schools. You cannot have 210 schools with a population of 7 million. You know, and you can comparatively look at all counties. I know Senator Nyandarua has more than triple the number of schools I'm talking about, yet the population is a small fraction of the population we have. That is a challenge that Nairobi County has. It's a historical challenge, and so we're doing our part to increase the number of schools. Chair, our focus on this incomplete and under-resourced schools, Chair, is really budget constraints. It's really budget constraints. Chair, in the ideal situation, we would want to have, as we said, starting with the ECD, the ratio of 1 is to 33 is too high. We need to come down, but we need more of our students in our public, schools. A child goes through the entire education system. When they get to the exams, they're in centers that are not recognized, and you find a scramble for them to actually go do exams in another different center. Chair, I think finally, maybe I can even point out a modem. It has not been written for me. Modem, there is actually ECD in the Superloaf Primary School. Korogosho.
Maybe, Governor, as you are pointing out, these ECDs is differentiate those schools with classes and those with ECD centers.
It depends on the definition of an ECD center. I can give an example. If you go down the road to Kongoni Primary School in South Bay, the school is owned by us as the county. We built the school. The bulk of the classes are primary classes. Then you have 5 of them set aside to be ECD. Our center manager has an office. There is a playground. So it's a comprehensive school. It has ECD and it has the primary component.
Yeah, that we agree, but what we get in most of the counties we go to is the ECD centers. Actually, most of them are domiciled in schools, but are they set aside? And how many are we talking about? Okay, you could have more streams. So if you have a center with maybe 5-6 classes and a playground and an office, then that qualifies to be an ECD. And that is what maybe the senator is asking, because you find some people would feel that in their schools they don't have an ECD center because they have classes. So even for us, we would like to know in those schools How many are centers and how many are in classes?
And ask my
and also, Chair, so that he can answer together. Each ECD should be apart from the other, only 600 meters. Is that the same with Nairobi?
No, it's not possible in Nairobi.
Because that is the guideline that is there.
It is not possible. I think that works in counties with a lot of land. You know, in Nairobi, you can't get 600 meters from the primary school. So we've integrated them. You know, just because we have 696 square kilometers, and land is extremely expensive, and so that guideline we're not able to comply with that. And so our schools, the standalone, is it 35? 30. The standalones which are just purely ECD only are 35. But the ones integrated are the 210, which are within still our infrastructure, which is why we've been able to do more development. We've built the kitchens in those schools, we do halls in those schools. We've had to remove many churches in these schools because we found people at long-term leases to build, you know, churches in schools. And I'm a Christian, but I tell them that is not how we should do it, because that infrastructure really is for our children. You know, I can give you an example of Parklands Primary, where the space where we're to build more classrooms had been taken over by a church, and they were, you know, and it wasn't that they come on Sunday only. They actually build physical infrastructure in the school during the week. And I called that pastor, I told him, look, we are all Christians, but this is not right.
Governor, I had to interrupt because I have to leave just I requested to address these four on the stalled, on the ones that are stalled, on the ones that lack essential amenities, the toilets, the ones in Jiru, Madare North, Dandora, Area 4 and Molem. Just those four so that I can leave.
Molem, there is super.
There's one center.
Yeah, in super.
I agree. So the question was if we have qualified or trained ECD teachers.
Oh yes. In all our schools, we are close to 1,000. They are qualified and they're trained. Chair, we've not done a recruitment for a while. You realize the quagmire we have also with the ratio, but we're going to do it. I think for all store projects, Chair, our intention is to finish. They're not just in schools. You know, whether it is roads, etc. It's a budgetary issue. It is just a revenue issue. But we intend, you know, in this current budget that we have, we reduced new projects so to complete all store projects. And that's a question that was in the devolution committee. Chair, earlier the senator had brought up that issue. A lot of the cancellation, Senator, have been coming from the Senate, you know, and I can table that, including last week. I was supposed to be Public Accounts Committee. I received a letter on Monday telling me not to come. Public Investment Committee, the same. The only one was devolution, and I spoke to also Senator Catherine Muma. That one we will come and answer that question. A very important thing has been raised by the Senator. And I'll tell you, Senator, I agree with you fully. If it was up to me, every single child in Nairobi should be on dish in accounting. Every single child. Chair, we're feeding 316,000 children every day. We've built 17 central kitchens. Our partner has one big kitchen that has 60,000 meals. We've published regulations that now will allow even the public, because we'll set up a board, you know, that has people from the private sector, the auditors, ETC, whoever, you know, so that it's owned by the public. It's really, yeah, it's mainly a resource question. So what we've done, Senator, we've mapped out all the informal schools closest to a public primary school. Because what we intend to do is that at lunchtime, if a child is in an upbeat school, in Madari for instance, at lunchtime, they can go to Duruno Primary, have lunch and go back to their school. Because you cannot deliver to all of those schools, but we're looking at the closest ones. To deliver it, we need to build an extra 68 kitchens to actually fill that capacity. Because as you've said, if you look at a third, compare 20 kitchens vis-a-vis the population, we're looking for support, monetary support to actually build those extra kitchens. It would be ideal. What I don't agree with is saying that we should not feed the ones we can. so that, because we can't feed all of the ones we can. Today, Chair, if you go to most parts of the city during a school day, you will not find the children would find during the day, street children, because they're in school because of food. These children don't even finish their food. They pack it and take it back home to their parents or to their siblings. It's a dire issue. In fact, my challenge now is what to do during the holidays. Because many parents are saying, yes, thank you, you cover them during the school days, but the holidays, we have a problem in some areas. Now once these regulations are done, of course we should depend on a reliable stream of resources. But using this watch, Chair, you will be able to adopt a child. People in the private sector can say, I'll feed a child for a month, I'll feed a child for a year. It is not sustainable, but it's the best that we can do for now. Chair, if we got additional resources, even a grant. In fact, if you look at the money, and I would like you as a committee to call NACONEC, the national body that deals with school feeding. Some of those budgets should be transferred to us, because you cannot compare the efficiency at all with what we do. So Senator, the plan is that we're going to pilot in a few constituencies, mainly Madari constituency, Waraka and Dagoretti North, which is where we have a lot of the upgrade schools. We'll pilot, but it's really a resource issue. It is not
Let me just address timelines, and then Governor wasn't there, and undertaking by the national government to match the money from the county in terms of a feeding program. Is that being done?
It is not. Chair, there was an undertaking to match shilling by shilling. Yeah. We have invoiced the national government up to, because the last year was 800 million, we've actually updated the invoice. It's close to now 2 billion shillings that they need to match to the county. They have not done it. The intergovernmental agreement that we've signed, that is deposited, talks about a matching of shilling for shilling on the school feeding program. Not a cent has been sent to Nairobi County. We've been handling it ourselves. So, Chair, that is something also you can pick up. I have spoken to the CS, the current CS, Migos Ogamba. I had raised it to the former CS, what's his name? Machogo. And I've raised it at the highest levels of this government. So, Chair, also the Senate can assist us with that, so that they can own up their part of it.
Thank you, Senator Sifuna. Thank you so much. At least there was okay. I have a senator who came in. Please come on record. And Senator Sifuna, if you have any concerns that you want this committee to deal with, please forward them to us.
My name is John Kenya, Senator of Laikipia, member of this committee.
I should also say I'm a friend of the governor.
Chair. Okay, thank you. CS Senator Kavindu.
Yeah, Chairman is a suggestion to the governor. Before you build all those kitchens you want to build, how about transporting the food to the very needy children? Just transporting from one center to, ECD to another one. Before you build.
Chair, thank you. And I want to thank you because from Machakos County, we get a lot of our onions and tomatoes for this program. We get Western grams from Busia County. We get, some provisions from Nyandarua, including cabbages. We get food from, it's an entire ecosystem, Chair. People just see the finished product, but the sourcing, the farmers, it's created 2,000 jobs. We have drivers and trucks, that do this work. It's a logistical issue. It is easier for the children to come closer to one center because we have one kitchen per sub-county, but we take the food to the serving stations in each school. Yeah. The informal schools you'll find have one has 70 children, another one has 40, another one has 60. So if you do that, you'll spend a whole day just trying to cover. But we've mapped out because there's a walking distance. Fortunately for us, the distances in the city are not too vast, and so they're close to those schools. But we'll be making an appeal to the Senate in terms of how you can actually support through a conditional grant to the county specifically for that. And the reason I'm saying this is that many counties might not need a feeding program because in many rural counties, food is available somehow, and there's a social fabric, there's community, there's your grandma, the aunties, the relatives. It is very hard. But in Nairobi, I keep saying, if you have no money, you will sleep hungry, and you actually have nowhere to sleep. You can die of hunger and your neighbor is having a party, unfortunately. The urban poverty aspect of it, cities need to have such a program. You need it in Nairobi, you need it in Mombasa, you need it in Kisumu, and the cities with even Nyeri town, because the kind of poverty, I'm sure you not believe, Senator Chair, there are more children out of school in Nairobi than in any arid county in this country. There are more children out of school in Nairobi than Turkana, than Garissa, than West Pokot, than Wajir. But we only see the affluent parts of the city. So we look at all those ideas. We're open to any idea that can help us reach more of our children.
Thank you, Senator Muma.
Madam Chair, I just took, before she goes, there's something that the Governor mentioned about the national government matching a shilling for a shilling. Was it a political statement or is a letter to that effect?
The shilling for shilling matching is in the intergovernmental agreement that was executed between ourselves and the Ministry of Education. So it is not a political statement. It is actually a written and documented thing. We have invoiced them thrice, and we will keep invoicing. They say the budgetary issues, but the current budget, where there's a provision for school feeding at the national level, can be used to actually support or rather honor the commitment that was made for the children of Nairobi.
Thank you. Senator Muma.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Your Excellency, I have a number of questions. Chair, long before I joined the Committee on Education, I had asked some questions last year to the Governor and the Ministry of Education. Your Excellency, my questions are premised on the fact that the Constitution of Kenya and its benefits are supposed to accrue to every citizen, and in this instance to every child, on an equitable basis. Your county is a city, and it's a city county and a county city, and its largest population, in my view, is within the informal settlement. I have looked at in my question last year, and in the question that you were asked by this committee, you were asked about policies that you have for your education sector. Your response is to give the national government policy. You don't have any. In fact, to my answer last year, you said that there was a policy underway on VTC, but you did not have any on ECD. My view is that you cannot implement a function effectively if you don't have a plan and a strategy around that function. So if we don't have a Nairobi County policy on early childhood education that contemplates what needs to be done in the informal settlements, we will never be able to deliver the right to education on an equitable basis or equal basis to children in informal settlements. So I would want to know, number one, what has stopped you from initiating a conversation to have an intergovernmental agreement, similar to the one you're saying about food, around the management of ECDE function within the schools? As you put it yourself, the property is yours, the schools were yours. So it's actually about you handing over a portion of that to national government, more than national government ceding anything to you. What has stopped you from having a collaborative agreement that enables you to take charge of the ECD function within the public schools? I want to give all the questions so that we move. Secondly, have you had any public participation concerns to listen to parents and learners in informal settlements to understand what they're going through in order to plan on how to provide for them? I know informal settlements are difficult to plan for, but under the NMS, we took hospitals to informal settlements because we were recognizing that the right to health accrues to them on an equal basis as others. So we must find a way of providing public services. What is it that Nairobi County will do 13 years after devolution to ensure that the children of those in informal settlements access education equally? I have looked at the numbers you gave me earlier, and you have, in my question, you had given me 227 ECD, public ECD centers. I think in the committee answer you have given 230. And I did ask that you give me a breakdown of how many of these public ECD facilities are located in informal settlements, and the breakdown you gave me brought me to 31 out of this lot. 31 are informal settlements, and yet the bulk of the population that requires this is in informal settlements. Chair, in my question, I actually asked for the population, and you gave me the figure of 762 persons aged below 6 who require ECD services. So my question is, if you don't have a policy, how is your department planning for these learners? Or are these learners just left to fate and left to the mothers? As you have put it, in your feeding program, some of those children carry the food home because the situation is dire. So if the kids are sharing, the little public food is there, what is happening to those families around accessing actual education? It is something I would want you to look at. Secondly, I would want to know whether you have grants or any part contribution from partners on the school feeding program, and if so, how much have you received in that regard? But linked to my first question, if you had policy or if you have it, I would want to know, what are you deliberately planning around support to the informal settlements so that we move from a paltry 31 facilities to support them, because the rest are actually supporting the middle class and the upper middle class. You have made reference to care centers, and I think care centers makes sense for urban areas like Nairobi, could actually be useful facilities for purposes of supporting single mothers and families that need actually to go out and look for livelihoods. I would want to know whether you also have a policy around care centers, how that differs from ECD, and whether you are actually deploying any budgetary allocations towards these care centers. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Kenywa.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Governor, I think it's easier that way, isn't it?
Madam Chair, there was a big story about 1 million chapati, which you made every student or learner in Nairobi believe that they'll be eating chapati every other day. I don't know whether it was a political statement or it happens. Because looking at what you have provided, you give for feeding program, I'm not seeing anything like or anything close to chapati. Secondly, I'm looking at the budget. Your recurrent budget is drastically reducing. What does that mean? Is it that maybe some of your employees are retiring, or what's exactly the reason? Because it's your budget. If I look at the year 2022, recurrent was 2. The year 2023-2024 was 1.9. The year 2024-2025 was 1.8. So why the reduction? My third question is, Governor, how many ECDs have you built yourself in your term? And are they fully furnished? Because I heard you explaining and I could not understand. You said the ECD centers in Nairobi, your explanation keep on differing, but it's standard, it is provided for in the policy. What is an ECD center? Would it change in Nairobi? You talked about enrollment because of the feeding program. The enrollment increased by 29%. Is this because of food, or is it an act of God? Because the population is increasing. It goes without saying, when the population increases, of course the enrollment will go up, whether you are feeding the children or not. So would you say with authority the 29% is caused by the feeding program? Again, did you inherit any of your teachers from the default? Well, Nairobi was a city. Did you inherit the people from the default city council? Was it city? Nairobi was not city council. City council, yeah. Did you inherit from the city council? And lastly, Governor, you mentioned about the criteria for you to issue bursaries, and you mentioned you have complied, Muranga, Makueni, okay. And the trend is very good because all these governors who have complied, they're all senators, which is very good. But you're missing the fourth one, who I don't know who he is. But what is the criteria? Because basically that's not your function, to be issuing bursary to secondary school and to colleges. What is the criteria, so that at least, because many of the governors who are coming here, they're telling us, who was telling us they have a pending bill, or I think some governor came here and told us having pending bills. Are you not reading from the same script so that they would know what they're supposed to do, so that they can be allowed to give bursary, which is not their function? But of course we understand when there's difference between what the law says and what is on the ground. Like, you know, my work is to skiz the ground. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. I think I don't want to ask mine now so that you finish, but I want to only add one thing to what he's saying. You mentioned earlier, Governor, that this was transfer of functions actually. The intergovernmental relations agreement that you have signed is a transfer of function. Was money followed? Is there money that was allocated to this function because it was transferred? Because even if it is bursary, we are talking of the agreement you signed, I think had bursary in it, and then you also mentioned that there is a 1 shilling to 1 shilling agreement. Does that bring back the functions, or what does it mean to transfer the function? You finish those, then I will ask my questions.
I'll start with the last one. Chair, the intergovernmental agreement or a requirement of the control of budget. If you ask many of us as governors, we don't see the bursary or scholarship support as a function that is being transferred. It is social protection, you know, and social protection actually is a function of the county. Because the function of education is teaching the child, it is building those classrooms, it is paying teachers. We're not doing that. What we're doing is giving support. But the requirement was given by the control of budget, and we're just pragmatic that, okay, if the control of budget insists that we should do an intergovernmental agreement, all counties did the intergovernmental agreement and signed. Gazetting, 4 of us have gazetted them. Notification to the county assembly. So she's using Article 187. And so we're being pragmatic, saying, okay, if that is what you insist to do, because you can imagine, Chair, a child who is in Form 2 on our bursary, which we have committed to from Form 1 to Form 4, and suddenly the money is not there. Where does that child go? You know?
Yeah, we understand.
So we're just being pragmatic.
Yeah, we understand you. I want you so that you clarify that one answer.
But there was no money for it.
Yeah, it's the issue of social protection.
Yeah.
You know, if you go for social protection, you'll do everything under social protection. But you have your own social protection even in health that is not sufficiently done. You have your social protection on these babies who are in informal sectors that is not done properly.
Yeah.
What as a committee we're interested in is the budget that has been given to a sector called education.
Yes.
And we are telling ourselves, what exactly must we do in that education sector? Must we be paying a university student who can go on strike if they don't get their right money? Because in fact, the impact of that bursary to university did not stop the strikes. They went on strike because they didn't like the formula. They don't care who is going to do it, but they have said that we must go back to the original formula. So, although we have baptized it social protection, and you know this because you are a senator, we have baptized it social protection, we are affecting other sections, and we will be able to show you when we go to the VTCs what we are talking about. Of course, my biggest worry is what you mentioned, the numbers of your ECD.
Yeah.
The numbers.
They're too low.
This is Nairobi. How can we be having this? But I hope you'll be able to give us also the figures of the number of primary schools you have, because I don't believe the primary schools in Nairobi are 230.
They're 210 actually, not 30.
210,
Yes.
which is a disaster
It is.
to begin with.
Yeah.
So it means we must build double the number of CCDs in between.
So what?
So let me allow you to finish it, then we'll come back.
Yes, so Chair, what we're doing, that is a number that has been there since I was in class 2, Now I'm the governor, I have to build, and that's what we're building. That's why we're building 5,000 classrooms in this city. We don't have to build, you see, Nairobi is not like many counties that have vast distances. You may not need a new school, but you can build more classrooms. You can go up. You don't have to look, because land is extremely expensive in the city. If an acre of land is costing you 200 million shillings, that would be how many classrooms? So what we're doing is adding more classrooms within the same centers, and then employing more teachers. Where we have land, like the example I've given, where we have public surrenders, of land, when you do a subdivision scheme, 10% comes to the county, is where we can do new schools. Chair, on the intergovernmental agreement to fund or to allow counties to also issue scholarships and bursaries, and I'll give you the figures that I said were different. In 22-23, for instance, we gave bursaries to 134,127 children. 134,127 children. And scholarships to 4,988. Scholarships are those who've done well in class 8, and so you support them from Form 1 to Form 4. In 2023-24, it was 119,000 children. That's 500 million, 595 million shillings. And 5,100 scholarships, because now we onboarded a new Form 1 class. The reason why, Senator Kinyua, you're saying the recurrent budget went down was once the controller of budget stopped the issuance of scholarships and bursaries, in a supplementary we removed it, because then you need that figure to balance something different. So that is why you see a sharp reduction in recurrent, because that is a recurrent expenditure. Development expenditure has been either constant or going up, because it includes construction of ECD centers, or construction of central kitchens, or just renovation of the facilities that we have. Chair, Nairobi needs that affirmative action in the number of schools it has. And I've explained the context, because I was born and I have grown up in this city. I know how the city was before multipartyism and how it became after. And many of you are older, including the senator who is my cousin, who I will not mention because it's very difficult. But she's my auntie. So, because of age, I call her auntie. So, auntie senator, there's a reason why this infrastructure was not built. I'm sure that you've seen a clip one day, I even shed a tear, because that child needs a fair chance at life. No child chooses to be born in the slum or in the informal settlement. And the prerogative we have is to give them equality of opportunity. That a child born in Madari can have the same shot at life as a child born in Karen. The equalization is education. And if the thing that is bringing them to school is that they will get a meal and they will get off the streets. Chair, when I drive in this city, during the holidays, I find kids, whether it is outside Lavington, those children who will find there, and they come to me, they know my car, and ask them, why are you guys out here? They say, during holiday, there's no food. So we have to come look for the food. Chair, there's a young girl called Mildred, who, when we were doing scholarships last year, 2024, January, I met her. It was at Nairobi Milimani. She was wearing this watch. So I asked her, Mildred, you're getting scholarship to go to Form 1. This watch is only for primaries. All my children wear this. This is a tap to it. This is what we use to verify that we have permission. This child is called Kavindo, and maybe there's this allergy or not. I can even tell how many children have gone to school today based on this. Yeah. So she was still wearing it. So I asked her, Mildred, why are you wearing this? And she said she's an orphan in Kangemi. She's been living with her grandmother. She had never gone to school for 3 days straight and so she was performing very badly. Until when we introduced this program in third term of 2023, is when she went to school for every day. She moved from the bottom of her class to top 10 in the city. And she got a chance to go to Loreto Convent, Limuru. So she said, because, yes, quoted, your school. So she said, because of this.
Yeah, microphone, please.
Yeah. So she said, because of having this chance at an education, she will never remove it. So in fact, now what I have to do is to keep refreshing her watch, because it's a symbol for her. The reason I wear it, I don't eat in those schools, but it's a commitment. It reminds me of the commitment of these children. And Senator Kinywa, 29% is because of food. The population does not grow by 29%. The population of Nairobi grows by 4%, 3 to 4% annually. I was talking to the headmaster of Hospital Hill Primary School. The head teacher tells me they have a waiting list of 6,000 parents who want to bring children to that one school because of food. So yes, what we've done is a pilot. We've shown that it is possible, that it can be done consistently. Yeah, to date we've done 60 million meals. 60 million, meaning we fed the whole country plus 10 million. It is scalable. And now with these regulations, and we'll have the board, you will see your people, whether it is your Safaricom CEO, the KPMG, who are not sitting in that board, and a secretariat. Nairobians can be able to support a child or sponsor a child and for it to be audited. So Chair, for the bursaries and the food, there has been no additional budgetary allocation, but our intergovernmental agreement on food specified a shilling for shilling matching. It just hasn't been done. And so the national government owes us that money. They owe us, and if you can help us get it, we'll be very happy. But it's a commitment made, it's on paper, it is signed. When I go to Senator Kinywa's questions, before I come to Senator Catherine Muma, the percentage growth is directly attributable. And I'll be very happy to table a report, Chair, of a study being done by the University of London, College of Hygiene and Health Sciences, on the health outcomes of these children. These children are much healthier. We're actually monitoring. Chair, every day we have labs. And I'd like, by the way, if this committee one day can come on a tour for me to showcase what this process is, from beginning to end, and we go to the schools. I would really...
We actually to counties after meeting the governor. We go to the counties. So we are coming.
Wonderful. That will be great. And so we test. We have our labs. Every single cauldron used, container used, every surface. When the food goes to school, the temperature is checked. If it is below a certain temperature, that food is not served. The container is sealed. The trucks are specialized. It is a highly logistical exercise, and I thank God that it has been successful for the time it has been there. I don't want to cause karma by saying anything, but we have had no single incident since 2023, that time to 2025. The question on the chapatis, it was humorous, but it's a real, the children really wanted it, and they really want it. And so the 1 million came because I was saying, look, if I feed 300,000 and each one takes 3, of course that comes close to 1 million, but it doesn't mean that you'll do that every single day. The machine that we have found does 6,000 to 8,000 a day. One has been paid for by the president. We are procuring the other one. And so some schools now can have it, it's not every day. Some schools can have today in one part of the city, we're in 6 barrels. Another barrel can have the next day or another day, but the children love it. School feeding cannot be how it was when we were kids, where you're given food that is boring, that you don't enjoy. It has to be nutritious, but also tasty and also exciting for the children, And our food is actually very, very tasty. It is nice. One day, if we walk down the road...
Maybe, Governor, as you're talking on that, so that I don't come back to it,
yeah.
School feeding programs.
Yeah.
What is the relationship between building kitchens and having a service provider?
So the service provider, Chair, runs the service. The infrastructure is ours. So we built 17 of these central kitchens. Each of them does between 15 to 20,000 meals. But the employees there running the buses, sourcing the food, whether it is carrots, tomatoes, whatnot, is done by someone we have contracted called Food for Education. Because one, we saw that they have actually skin in the game because they have a huge kitchen that already built. When I was in the Senate, you remember when we had the Mang Bills bill by Senator Eno. I spoke about what I saw in the Senate. Remember during COVID, there was a lot of vandalism that happened in schools. And so with friends of mine, I went to donate some desks in a few schools, in Olympic, in Tagoreti North, Katina Primary, and in Kinyanjuro Primary. When I went to Kinyanjuro Primary in these schools, normally when you go there, they'll say, "Oh, Senator Kinywa, we're happy to see you, we're excited." Then you ask the children, "What do you want?" They would say, "We want a basketball," or they would say they want a school bus. But children started saying, "We want food." And so I tried to bring an amendment into that bill to say that the national government must provide for school feeding by getting it from the farmers. Unfortunately, the bill didn't see light of day. I think it was reintroduced in this Senate. The number of counties that actually are contributing, to the program, I would love to list for you, including. Now, unfortunately, Uasin-Gishu is not benefiting because our product is maize, and we're not doing ugali yet. But some parts of the city, actually, the children want ugali. That is Westlands, Kangemi, and Kangware. The children are saying, I don't know why. But they're saying that. But Chair, I've just forgotten. There's something specific you've asked. Sorry?
I think you have answered that one.
Yeah.
It was the relationship between
so the infrastructure is ours.
And the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Because some of these ideas, Governor, some of the ideas you give us, we also transmit to other governors.
Yeah. So
where we have something positive, we pick from you. Where we have something negative, we tell you what the others have done.
So I was explaining when I saw that issue in the Senate, and I went to those schools. I was invited to a school called Mukarara Primary by the MP for Dagoretti South. Mukarara Primary had one kitchen built by this, or rather run by this institution called Food for Education that I saw. And I said, we need to replicate it. So when we actually engaged them and tendered, because they have skin in the game, in industrial area, they have the biggest kitchen in Africa that does 60,000 meals. And they started in Ruiru. If you just open it up, many brokers and entrepreneurs will come and say, "Oh, I can also do feeding, I can do it," but you need somebody with the expertise and with the passion to do it. So that is the nexus, and they've also built 7 of their own kitchens themselves. They are funded. They've gotten funding from the Children Investment Foundation Fund. I've seen there's a question on external funding. SIF has funded them. The only external support we've gotten was by the French government. In 2024, what was it, 2024? When we went I'll confirm, I think 2024, when we had the climate summit, that was in 2023 or 2024, one of the French ministers who came, called Crisula, she was the Minister of State, asked me to take her to see this program, and I took her to Kibra. And when I took her to Kibira, she was so excited because she saw a school with 6,000 children and all of them eating. So she committed a grant of 1 million euros. But the 1 million euros was sent directly. We told them, support our partner. So that 1 million euros was sent to Food for Education, not to the county government of Nairobi. But Food for Education is audited on that. And the Auditor General has actually spoken to that. We've answered the questions. What that 1 million euros does is to support 10% of the children who can't afford the 5 shillings. It's hard to believe there are parents who can't afford that 5 shillings even at 5 shillings per day. Such that there's no child who is taken out of the line for food. We cannot, there's no worse, I don't know how to use, lack of dignity than to be pulled out of a lunch line for a child And I've told schools to never do that. If a child completely doesn't have it, I'll fund, I will pay. So normally it's 10%. We've seen in schools, it's almost like indigence in help. It's normally around 10% of those who can't afford completely. Chair, Senator Kinyo, I hope I've answered your concerns. On the current scholarships and bursaries, I've given the numbers that we've done. And just think about it. If in 10 years, Nairobi has had governors and the mayors, we've had almost 4 governors. We've had Governor Kidero, Sonko, Kananu, NMS. In 10 years, they did 3 billion. In 2 years, they did 2 billion. In 10 years, 3 billion. In 2 years, 1.88 to be precise, billion. It's just this last year that the control of budget stopped us. But I'm glad even after yesterday's meeting, we're going to resume. And it's good for me using this platform to tell the parents of Nairobi that our program is resuming for bursaries and scholarships. Let me come to Senator Muma's questions. Because
Madam Chair, just a clarification, because he's so passionate about the issue of Dishina County. On page 4, on top of that page 4, I'm seeing the beneficiary ECD centers is 31 public ECD centers. Do you mean, because that one you're throwing me off balance, I'm seeing you have 230 public ECD centers. What does that mean? Does it mean it's 31 are the only...
the standalone. The question was the standalone. But it's actually 231, the ones which are within our primary schools.
No, I'm looking at beneficiary because I'm following up. It's about food.
Yeah.
Page 4 on top, we are discussing food, and the beneficiary is 31. Is it that the 31 are the ones that you're feeding only?
We are feeding 200 and how many? 230 schools. Then this must be an error. But remember, I explained it is only 31 centers that are on their own, that are not within a primary school.
Oh, they were based on, I thought, I'm looking at it in continuation to food, so I thought,
sorry about that. So it's actually 316,000 children,
316,000 children are being fed.
Every day.
Yeah.
316,000.
Maybe so that I dropped my question which I had earlier, and you picked it when you talked of donor support.
Yeah.
Why would you give a donor to a service provider instead of controlling the funding yourself? Because this thing you call food for education, by the way, is very attractive to any donor.
It was the donor.
So long as they know it is ring-fenced for that purpose.
Yeah.
But if you start spreading, it means you'll be looking for donors, and your service providers will be looking for donors, and you will meet on the table of the donor.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this because this is not the only donor you have. You can have Safaricom doing something, you can have all the others who are doing their social responsibility can also do the same. So why are we diverting it? I'm worried because in arid lands, some counties are giving free food 100%. And we have met governors here who give free food 100% to children in ECD. The reason they have partners. The minute the partners think they are giving money to a service provider, they will run away from even the Nairobi good thing.
Chair, now that we have the regulations, they can provide for that direct funding. To us, that time there were no regulations. We've now published those regulations, and at that point, it was the funders, wish to actually support this NGO. You see, the service provider is not like a vendor; it's actually an NGO, that attracts such funding. Now that we have regulations, all support to Dishina County will be coming to the county government. Chair, that will be neater, and I agree with your suggestion. It will actually be neater and easier for us to account for it, and to say for sure this amount has been used in this fund. Chair, that one I take your advice.
What to Muma's question, please?
So yes, so Senator Anti, number one. it is
Governor, you're out of order.
Sorry. Anyway, let me go to the questions. The education policy, generally, if you look at the fourth schedule of the Constitution, general education policy is domiciled with the ministry, with the national government. and counties implemented. For informal, what is that? What we have in terms of legislative intervention for the city, or rather our framework. One, we have Childcare Facilities Act that we've actually done in Nairobi to regulate that space. We have developed regulations then to operationalize that law, and we can be able to submit that. Actually, public participation around that is going on. We are trying to look at which framework we can have, because we've had meetings, formal meetings with these update schools and with the ministry. And we're saying that, look, there needs to be, and I agree, Senator Muma, there needs to be a specific policy around this update. Update means alternative provision of basic education and training, you know. There are results that they have come up as a result of government not performing or not delivering to the people and not providing. If you go to the ministry says they don't recognize them. They don't recognize them. You cannot do an exam in that update school. And so I agree on the need for a specific policy around the informal update schools, but the correlation of the number of schools in the informal settlements may not necessarily reflect how many of the children in informal settlements are in our schools. Because you find in every informal settlement in Nairobi, neighbors are semi-affluent or affluent area. So for instance, if you go to Muthaiga Primary School, there is no child from Muthaiga. They are from Madare. You know, if you go to in Runda, Gidogoro, you know, the school is in Runda. Cheleta. It's not a child from Runda per se in that school, but it's a child from Gidogoro in that school. So the number doesn't necessarily directly reflect on who is in the schools. It's just where the schools were built. But the schools are very close. Every estate in this city that is affluent or semi-affluent has an informal settlement next to it. And so the children of the workers of the houses in Karen or in Runda or in whatnot are the ones going to those schools. Now, the problem is land tenure in the informal settlements in terms of being able to find a space to build. So where we have space to increase the capacity or to build more schools, you'll find, for instance, Westlands Primary. The children in Westlands Primary may not be the children from the houses in Westlands. They're from Kangemi, they're from Deep Sea, informal settlement next to Westlands Primary. If you go to my former school, Aga Khan Primary, now the children at Aga Khan Primary are from Deep Sea in High Ridge. They're not the Asians that we went to school with in the same school. So that is the disconnect, or rather the dichotomy that we have in the city. We really must build more classrooms. If there's any program that I've seen the president doing that of course I support most of his programs, but one that I feel speaks to the hearts of parents, it is building classrooms in Nairobi. Every MP got around 58 million shillings through CDF to do 33 classrooms in the city. When that 1 billion was introduced and they were doing 1 billion per year, the National Assembly, other countries said, why is it only for Nairobi? The president himself intervened and said, no, this city has that need for the schools. And it's been done year on year, and we're also doing our bit as a county government. So I'm really open to engage, because we've had public participation sessions with the people in the informal settlements. I go there sometimes, you know, and just listen. And my team does it. In fact, some we do there, some we bring them to Charter Hall when we want a more structured meeting with organizations. You know, we don't do it in the informal settlement, we bring them. Because if you go there, then the discussion moves from what you've gone to discuss on education and becomes Omaji and there are many other, you know, pressing needs at the same time. But I would want us to, and I would request this House, because the Senate sits at a place of such great authority and responsibility, that if the Senate, on its own motion, together with educationists, to bring people from different sectors, you know, to come and help us create either policy intervention around what do we do with informal settlements. Because I've said the prerogative we have as senators, yeah, and I still consider myself a senator because I've been in the Senate longer than I've been a governor, is equalization of opportunities. If you equalize opportunities, this country will be good. If Kinywa knows that his child has the same chance in Laikipia to be whatever he wants to be as a child in Kisumu or in Nairobi, we won't even care who is the president. You know, every Kenyan will be okay. On the issue on...
Chair, just allow me to do a follow-up on that.
Yeah.
I happen to be on the Nairobi delegation, much as I'm Kisumu, not Kisumu Rural, Kisumu Nyakach. I would want us to take the governor seriously on that point. And Governor, I am happy with whoever else as the committee may plan, for us as this committee to sit with you, if you allow, and your technical team, for us to be able to assist on what it will look like to have a county policy, particularly around the informal settlements. They are also coming up in cities like Kisumu and Mombasa. I think it would help to resolve a big issue, not just for Nairobi, but for the country. I would be happy as a human rights person and a member of this committee, chair, with your permission later, to be able to move on.
I'll be very happy to share. We had a task force that was done in a task force report 2014, thereabout, by the first county government, that of course needs updating, but really started looking at that discussion, at those issues. I know Humphrey Watanga was there, the now KRA boss. It would be good to update it and see, okay, practically then what does that mean in terms of financing, in terms of the grants, in terms of even looking for external support, in terms of what moves from the ministry to cities that have informal settlements. Because it's a big problem. And remember, you will not solve the issue because you create a vicious cycle. A child who is born in that environment and then does not go to school properly and then grows up and also then has a child, you're just creating a vicious cycle that replicates in our cities. And it's a ticking time bomb, Chair.
Governor, there's an organization which we met some years back, African Population Health and Research Center, which have done a lot of research on that area, and they say they're working with the county government of Nairobi. So I don't know whether you're aware of that.
I know HRC, we're doing a lot of policy work with them. Additionally to that, by the way, when you talk about early childhood, many people think early childhood is just about school. The interventions needed for children start from conception. And we're working with Big Will Philanthropies together with the HRC to look at the nutrition of the mother, the training of the parental training during pregnancy. And it's a program that started, it's been done in Addis Ababa, and I've seen how they've done it. Facilities for children to play, because what happens between age 0 and 2 becomes irreversible in many cases, even if you do now the classrooms at ACD. So it's a very comprehensive program that we are working on with HRC and Big Will Philanthropies that starts at the point of conception, because you see, as a county, we're also handling health, so we are the hospital. So once we've found a mother is pregnant, how do we start working on that child? From the nutrition the mother has, the training. In fact, what happened in Addis is very beautiful, that men were told that the child can hear. So when men were told the child can hear, they stopped shouting at their wives and stopped fighting, and were told to start singing. And so they were singing in the house for their spouses, because they're told that affects the child's mental development. So it's a program that I would love to present to you, because one aspect of it also is playgrounds in our estates. Swings and slides and monkey bars and sand pits. We're now doing 80 of them, courtesy of the grant that we've gotten through that program. So I think this is a discussion that we need to have very holistically. We can even do either some symposium, really, between the counties with informal settlements, led by the Senate. You can bring different stakeholders, including this HRC, UNICEF as well, has quite interesting programs. But these programs have never been brought together in a wholesome manner that only the Senate can do. You have more convening power than any county on its own. So I'd really, please, let's follow that up, Chair.
I think maybe before you continue, there's a senator who has not come on record.
Thank you, Chair. Kamau Morango, a member of this committee.
Thank you. Governor, you must appreciate that since the meeting moved from 9 to 10, there are so many other meetings going on, and that's why members have to move to go and give quorum in other meetings.
And Chair, I'm actually informed that I'm being waited for in another committee.
Of health. Also
Health yielded. I was invited to health, education, and energy on the issue of public utilities and way leaves. We had an issue on people.
Let's rush it out.
Let's rush with ours, and I think members will appreciate that since we got this document today, I think we might need a workshop so that we can look at these documents before we do our oversight in Nairobi County. Thank you. Yes. Oh, he is not finished.
I think, Chair, for now, because the last question really came from Senator Muma on the policy and overall approach to informal settlements, and I've listed what we have and my suggestion of what we can do to enrich that.
Thank you, and you know that is a subject very close to Muma's heart,
yes.
And she has done a lot of research around that. So I think, Muma, what I would suggest is if you have any subsidiary questions, please let's forward them to the governor, to be answered later, and then
just allow me to say that, Governor, as a former senator or a senator, I expect on the matters of bursary, you would be helping the COG to move in the right direction. There is no function called social protection for counties. Social protection is like social welfare, security, and social protection includes housing, health, education. So we cannot say education for purposes of governance will become social protection in order for you to implement. So for those of you who are, let us maintain that national government must put enough money for those bursaries, and if you want to do it, you must be given that money as a condition of grant.
I agree completely.
Thank you, Senator Muma. Let's move, please. Vice Chair, you are done. You are led first, Vice Chair.
Okay, let me start from where Senator Muma stopped, because that was one of the key issues. We wanted governors to be on one understanding with us. By the way, we are with the control of budget. We are the ones who emboldened them when they came before us. And we said governors are giving bursaries instead of taking care of our little babies. And now you can see what the damage it has done. In fact, I was looking at your budget, Governor, and I was telling myself, you have said 2024-2025, there is no bursary that was given. And you are not including your VTCs. It means VTCs have never enjoyed anything, but hold that question when we reach the VTC. You will tell us how you are funding your VTCs, because some counties are giving free VTCs. You just go in and start welding and go back home. So we want to know why that money was not attractive enough for the functions in Schedule 4. And we've been pushing that so much because we would like governors to start paying attention to Schedule 4. Governor, a few small questions because I've asked a number of questions as I interjected. One is just a clarification. We are not against primary schools hosting ECDs. In fact, Nairobi, you said, is opposite, and I'm happy with that. Yeah, they are hosting primary schools. But while we are hosting primary schools, there is a policy here that tells you the acreage that you must confine your primary school. And that, in fact, in the city, it is about a quarter of an acre.
3 acres.
No, in this policy here of 2017, it gives you acreage, and that acreage, I hope you have the policy of 2017, and if you look at the policy of 2017, Article 1.1, pre-primary 1.1, you can show the governor, we have urban areas, in fact it's less than a quarter, it is 0.125 acres. And then in rural high schools, the recommended acreage is a quarter rural high density. And then rural low density is half an acre. What we are looking for is fencing off. Governor, we have gone to counties where governors have built beautiful toilets for the small kids, but in the primary school. So class 8 take over the toilets. And these little babies do their things before they reach there. So it is very important that we isolate them. I want to thank you because of the fact that you are focusing so much on how the child can be equalized at that level. And yours is rural and urban. You have also those slums which you must take care of. So I think I commend you for that. So we are not against primary schools hosting or ECDs hosting just let's make sure that they're isolated, they're fenced off, their play area is so attractive, and we look forward to see their play area. I was looking for the swings and the slides and whatever. Now, those ones are very attractive to class 4, even if they are ECD properties. They will jump over fences to go and play. So you must fence them and have an exclusive area for them, and that is also a comment. The other comment that I had was, I was actually very worried when I saw private schools are more than public schools. Then I said, okay, we have arrived in Nairobi, all of us, so we are building nursery schools to take care of middle class and above, so that should not worry us. Your ratio 1 to 33 is not that bad, but the population, I'm in shock. What is the population of students who are out of school? How many children don't go to ECD? In my village where I was born, 1966 we started going to nursery. It means in Nairobi we have children who have never stepped in nursery, and since they overgrow at age 7, you send them to primary school. Do you have a figure? Have you done your estimate? Just put that one down, because we want you to summarize the last question since you're in a hurry. And the cost of building an ECD center, Governor, 18 million. This is the highest we have ever had. Is it that Nairobi is too expensive to build anything? Because we were accusing somebody this week that they're using 4.9 to build 2 classrooms and a small kitchen and one washroom. It was one, oh yeah, that one was one classroom. One classroom, an office, and whatever was going to 4.9. Now this one is, and that was the highest for us. So 18 million. The costs seem to be an issue that you need to pay attention to. If you're using public works, I know we discussed public works when you were a senator, and we are saying public works give us figures that are outrageous. It's like they don't belong to the same country. And in fact, the National Assembly blocked them from giving figures. Even when I was a member of parliament myself, I would get their figures, weigh them out, and go for labor only. And when I went for labor only, I was using a quarter of what they were telling us. So sometimes some of these things called tenders can let us down. Transfer functions you have mentioned, was expensive. Why not spend in ECD VTCs? You will give us that one when we reach there. I think I'll leave it at that, Chair, so that we can quickly run through the VTCs.
Please do the furniture as you finish. And I'm told that Governor Natembea has gone to Energy, that they will inform us when he's through. So,
thank you.
The furniture.
Now, I was looking at the furniture. I've been tracking the furniture. Can your CEC tell us the page? Where is the classroom? The photos? 113.
As you're looking for the picture, I was just going to tell Governor, please compare the affordable housing cost in Nairobi for a 3-bedroom and what your people are telling you about 3 classrooms.
Okay, Governor, if you look at the photos of your children, beautiful, bright colors, which is what the police even asked for, but the sitting arrangement.
Which page?
Actually, if you look at it, page 110. It is even earlier, even from 110, 111. 101. You start from 108. The children are there. I think those ones are in class. They are not eating. Then you go to 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, up to 114. Governor, we have been looking at this, and I remember the first Council of Governors designed a table for children. And we said we don't want more than 6 children around a table. It's easier for the teacher and it's easier for understanding. It's easier when you want to do play groups, and it's easier when you want to change from one subject to the other, whether they are molding or they are doing whatever. But we can see that yours, most of them are rectangular. Is that rectangle? Or square?
The trapezium tables.
Trapezium.
Trapezium, yeah. So just that when they're brought together, it looks like an octagon.
Oh, so you have it.
So those are, see, that is 2 trapeziums.
Yes.
Create an octagon.
So you have this, where you have 2 brought together, then you have 6.
Yes.
So they are actually a 6-seater.
It's actually a 6-seater.
No, 6-seater. It's 6-sided, but
6-sided. Yeah.
Very many kids.
I think there's one
If it's a 6-seater, then you've got it.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a 6-seater. When you put the 2 together, then you have every child, you know, on their own space.
Yeah.
This we are calling it hexagonal. Because it should, the sizes, the areas.
Right, actually.
Yeah, so it's the same.
Page 105 and 103. I think 104 is where that school, they have not put them properly. Because the same trapezium is now put laterally, it's straight.
But this one is hosting 2 kids per side, eh?
Yeah. There's that one is not right. But if you look at 103, if you look at 105, each child has their
Okay, I can see one in 105.
There's just one naughty child.
So if we can just ensure in our inspection that there's 6 children per table, then we are okay. Then maybe the crowding is because all of them came to one room or something for the photo session.
There's no cameras.
For the photo session. If that's the case, then I congratulate you like I congratulated them.
Then maybe the question would be, how many schools have been equipped?
Are they all? So, have you changed furniture for all your schools so that we know that that's what we'll see when we come out?
I know just recently we did 8,000 new trapezium tables and of course more chairs, because 8,000 then covers for 3 children, covering 24,000. There's been an improvement. We can give the details. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that is 80%, around 80% covered. The modern trapezium.
Okay.
It's hexagon, what you're calling hexagon.
Hexagonal.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the last one was the toilets also. Have you modernized it the same?
Yeah, we are working on
baby toilets. We are now talking about baby toilets.
Yeah, the baby toilets.
Yeah.
Some schools, it was really terrible, you know. And some of these schools, by the way, and I hope you can help us look for Nairobians. If you see the people who went to those schools, like Currency Primary School, the state it was in, yet the big heavyweights in this country, corporate sector, went to those schools. They need to help us. But we've improved quite a number. I can give.
That's why I was saying, don't give away your donors to service provider.
They should come to us.
Have a fund. Build a fund yourself. Nairobi feeding program and school improvement program. And then you can throw it to these MDs.
And ask people to go back to the school they went to. You know, and help support. But I must also thank our members of parliament. Some of them, through the SDF, have actually also supported some infrastructure for especially and toilets. But what we've done, Chair, additionally using one of our companies that the county owns, Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company, we've now done fresh ablution blocks in quite a number of these schools. Through Nairobi Water and Company, boreholes. I am commissioning another 6 in the next few days that have been done through Nairobi Water. Especially in schools where you have Muslim community, they have had a big challenge with the issue of these ablution facilities for obvious reasons. And Chair, we've done an affirmative action for those areas. So I'll be very happy to share that those details further.
Thank you. Kavindu, please. Just one for Kavindu and then I come back to you, please. I know you're going to give quorum elsewhere, but please.
Hey, we've been waiting for long. Anyway, my question goes to page 4, where we came from, about the feeding program. The county subsidy is 25, parents 5, and Governor, you are giving out your partners. How much does the partners contribute to this feeding program? Because you are contributing 25, parents 5. And I'm not seeing anything that is being contributed by the partners, and yet you have several partners for the feeding program. And how many of the Let me come back for that. Let me get it and then come back.
Okay, Morango, please, Senator.
Asante sana mwenyekiti. Gavana, swali yangu moja. Bila kusema nilitembelea nani, lakini nilikuwa jela la Lang'ata. Lang'ata women. Na nikapata pia shule pale ya chekechea haikuwa nzuri sana, hakuna ukuta, wanasema pia wapati lishe. Nataka kujua gavana kama uko na mpango wote kuhakikisha wale watoto wamezaliwa pale pia kama kuna nafasi ya masomo. Asante.
Yeah, I've got it now. Through you, Chair. How many public libraries have the county government under your lead has built right now? And yeah.
Thank you. Senator, we've not come to libraries. We said we first finish with ECD and then it can be answered. So let us finish with ECD and then for clarity and then we can come back to libraries, please.
Labda nianze na sorry?
The feeding program.
Yeah, the subsidy. Let me start with Senator Murango's. Asante sana. Senator Mua will tell you that that nursery you're talking about, I attended it on and off in Lang'ata Women's Prison because my mom used to be an officer. So on the days I'd be naughty and refused to go to my school, I'd go to that same nursery, you know, and something I'm going to look at. I'll take it up. Kuangalia hali yake kuhakikisha kwamba mimi ni alumni wa hiyo.
Thank you, Governor. Next.
The subsidy, I think what we did indicate, the cost of the meal, because the county does 25 shillings, the parent 5 shillings, and then the supporters altogether 15 shillings. Because the actual cost of the meal should be around 40 to 45 shillings. Of course, we know the prices of commodities change based on the season. It is around 40 to 45. We could have done it free, but we chose not to make it free. The parents have also some pride that they have topped up that 5 shillings and that they're part of it. If you make it completely free, what I have come to see in my experience, people will say, hata si tamu, chumvi ni mingi. The complaints will be much more. But you can actually afford to make it completely. That's why no child is removed. But the parents, the pride they have, when I meet them in petrol stations or where it is, and they say, I have loaded, look at my app, I have loaded 100 shillings. That will cover my child, my 3 children for X number of days. They have so much pride that they're also contributing. You cannot take that away from the parents. So it is 25, 15, and 5. The 15 is by Children Investment Foundation Fund, SIF.
I was just wondering why it's not on the list like the rest of them.
That must be an oversight. But also, that is what goes directly to the food for education. That doesn't come to the county. The 15 goes to food for education, as we just do the 25, which they invoice us because they're like a service provider.
That is where Chair is telling you.
I agree with the Chair.
Don't give out the partners who come directly to you, because then you'll be able to account for whatever they give. Now you cannot account for it.
And especially, though they're audited, and they provide those reports. But what I'm grappling with now is really the holidays. The parents are telling me this is a long holiday, for instance, almost 2 months, and the children are at home. What do we do? So I'm figuring out a way that we will keep some of the kitchens running. Maybe not all 17 because of where they are, but many of them. For instance, if you look at the Great North Kitchen, it is in Mudangari Primary. Mudangari Primary is within a very affluent estate in Lavington, but all the children are from Kawangware, you know, and so in some cases you can just keep some kitchens going, but let's take food to places where, you know, to the informal settlements. That is what I'm grappling with right now.
Governor, are there children who are unable to pay completely?
Yeah.
What happens to them?
We pay for them. 10% of the children cannot pay at all, and it varies. The parent struggles, you find, because when you look at this wallet, you look at the child's wallet, you'll find that maybe the parent last topped up a week ago, and the child is in school. The child doesn't know that they have not been paid for because they can't see. You know, it is not like giving the child cash to go into school. So what we've told the center managers and the teachers to note those specific children, we cover for them completely. But no child is to ever be removed from a school lunch line. That is the policy, and that is our position as a county.
Governor, as you say that, what are you then doing to these other schools? Because you're giving them to 31. Because this program has become very popular. Is it called Dish in a County? Yes, it's become very popular. I think kids all over are talking about it. Those who are in school, they go telling the others that I'm in this school where they're being given food, and you're giving to 31 schools as opposed to 230 public schools. Can you give hope to the others?
It is not 31, that was an error. It is all the schools.
Okay,
All public schools.
Okay.
The only challenge we had, Chair, was the schools in the military barracks. And I spoke to the Chief of Defense Forces, General Kahariri. He has now given us access. And the AP schools, like Utawala, and those in the police lines. Just those. But
I'm happy, Governor, to hear that. That was worrying me because that thing has become very popular. And I think most of the point they see you dish in a county. Thank you.
Chair, allow me to go just back, a very important one. It will be remiss of us not to raise. You talked about the ward-based budgets.
Yes.
Now, I think we cannot have functions that are treated as functions of MCS. That's how we get into the trap of the unconstitutional NGCDF. My view, or I believe the committee would support me on this, if you have ward-based programs, they still must be accounted for per department. So the Department for Education cannot tell us they don't know how many ECDs have been developed in the wards under the ward-based budget. There is nothing like that in the Constitution. It is an administrative arrangement to have MCS to have a say on the kind of projects they want, but responsibility still lies with you as the executive to be able to account for those projects and place them within the your county departments.
I think you touch on that one as whether that is the position, but the last one we had was I heard was about water. When we talk of an ECD center, we are talking of water tanks where people are relying on rainfall. Now you have boreholes. Are those boreholes are they tested so that we are sure of the water? Because Nairobi is fluctuating. Some areas boreholes cannot be done. And do we have water tanks then running for hand washing and so forth? Or how is that part of the ECD center?
Generally, and it's good to give context, Nairobi is water scarce as a city. And in the last 3 years, we worked hard to reduce that deficit. Nairobi as a county had only 4 sources of water. Yeah. Kikuyu Springs, that was built in 1908, Wewe Dam, 1928, Sasumwa in Nyandarua County, close to my friend, which was built in 1958. That gives us 60 million liters a day, and then Nakaine Dam from 1994 to 1997. Those are the only sources. And that Nakaine was providing 84% of the water in Nairobi. Now, in totality, if you add all those sources of water, it was coming to 525.6 million liters daily. Yet the demand in Nairobi, when I got in, was 870 million liters per day. So the first thing we had to do was to increase the quantity, just pass the quantity of water coming into the city, which we've successfully done by completing Northern Collector 1, which has provided an additional 140 million liters of water in the city. There are areas now that never had water that have water. If any of you lives in Karen or Ngando or Iruta, Langata now is getting water, and there's a pipeline. If you drive on Langata Road towards Galleria, you will see on the side of the road my contractors now doing a line through Bomas that for the first time Langata, where we've grown up with no water at all, will be receiving through gravity, because the line that was serving Langata goes through Kibra and had a lot of infiltration, and of course it is going upstream. So we have to do one line through Kumbukarumba Road, which is this link road, Langata link road, coming all the way from Oliodume Road, from our Kabete reservoir. So generally the quantity has gone up. I am targeting another 220 million liters of water, where we've already gotten financing. Unfortunately, which the Senate needs to help us, counties should be allowed to get this directly because we can pay, you know. All these four sources we paid for. The 220 million liters of water, $100 million is supposed to do two things. Number one, Northern Collector 2, which is to give us 180 million liters additionally, and Maragua 4. Maragua 4 is also to give us, now combined with them, give us 200. And then in Ngedu water treatment plant, which we have in Gatundu North, we lose 30 million liters daily through the backwash filtration system. So our engineers designed a reverse backwash. When we filter the water, it goes into the environment. Now we're going to get it back. So it is possible for us to now completely fill the gap. Through that program, it has been stuck at the National Treasury and the Ministry of Water because we cannot get the financing directly. Yet the Korean government has expressed interest to give us that money over a long time concessional period. So what we've had to do is to intervene in the areas where the water hasn't gone up, because the 140 has helped in areas like Utawala, in areas like Mihango, these areas of Langata and Karen from the Kabete line. We've done one from Kiambu Institute of Kiambu Institute of Science and Technology coming through Roysambu, Zimmerman, down all the way to Embakasi Garrison, and so Kayole has increased water. So you find areas that were getting water once a week, now getting thrice a week. What we're advocating for is storage in the schools. So in many of the schools, I've had to intervene by doing boreholes on the west of Nairobi. In the east of Nairobi, the NMS made a mistake of digging 100 boreholes. Yet, the fluoride amount in the east of Nairobi, the World Health Organization recommendation is 1.5 parts per million. You find some at 6 ppm, 5 ppm, and you know what fluoride does to the teeth and to the bones. They become brittle to the children. So many of those were either stopping them or decommissioning them, because the only way you can sort it out is to do dilution, because you cannot do reverse osmosis, it's too expensive. So that's why you find, for instance, if you go to Kibra Primary School today, you'll find there's a new borehole that is working, where we've been able to test like Umoja 1 Primary, and the fluoride level is okay. We've commissioned, and the borehole is actually done. And so I'm opening another 6 of them. So we keep doing that through Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company. If I get support from this house and access the $100 million, the story of water shortage will be done, because now what you can do when you have at least the correct pressure of water is to use what we call SCADA technology, which from my phone I'll be able to see where somebody has cut off our line to fill in the water tankers. But until you've filled you see, it's like a pipe, you know, it's not like it's a pipe. If the water is just here and you have the SCADA technology, it will measure air, it will measure other things. So you see high non-revenue water figures. But until you've actually filled the entire, radius or diameter of the pipe, then you can be able to use that what we call SCADA technology, which is the next step that we're going to. So we have plans to make sure all the schools, at least for the children, that there is water that is available throughout. There was a problem with the water bills in these schools. You can imagine many schools were not able to pay for their water. So the county comes and intervenes. Because in as much as Nairobi Water is our company, fully owned by the county government, we have to make sure that it stays afloat. So the county government intervenes on behalf.
You have answered. I think that's good. Thank you.
Just need some clarification, Chair. You are saying that you're not allowed to do PPP with the Korean government or agency. Yet in the previous Water Amendment Act that we did, we allowed counties to do PPPs with county governments. The only thing that we were against was for the National Water Works agencies to do PPPs, and then they sell water to counties to the last mile, denying now the water companies to sell the water.
That's what they're doing. They're trying to charge us for Northern One. But what with the Korean government is not a PPP, it's actually a loan. You know, it's a loan. If you look at my Nairobi Water Company, we found it at 8 billion in terms of revenue. This last year we hit 12 point something billion in terms of revenue. It is actually able to pay those loans. But you see, the PFM limits our ability to borrow as subnational entities. That is the only challenge. Such that you can have all that agreement, we've sat down, you see me sometimes out of the country, we agree, I have to come back to Treasury, or I have to come back to the ministry, they take us around. The last example I'll give you, because you're senators, you can help me. Nairobi has a problem with transport and transit and traffic jams. We got 314 euros from the French Development Agency, European Investment Bank, 74 million euros to do line 3 of the BRT. To get cabinet approval took me 2 years, from December 2022 to December 2024, to get cabinet approval. After getting a cabinet approval, December last year, to date, the financing request has not gone out because the national government may not see it as a priority, but we see it as a priority, yet we cannot get the borrowing. You know, some of these things in devolution, the Senate must come in very strongly to support.
Thank you. I think you've put it right. Senate must come in. Let's have a way of having a joint meeting to discuss this. Get your proposal out, talk to your colleague governors, let's get the proposal out, and then senators can go through and see what kind of areas we should cover. I wanted us to stop there and go to VTCs quickly, because there are only 4 questions. I think there's 1 question on libraries and 14, and then VTCs we have
just
3.
Before you leave there, I want to advise the governor on, in those areas where you're getting real challenges, give the same to your senator to bring it as a question at the Senate, and it will be handled more quickly for you. Thank you.
Yeah, and then where there is policy shift, there may be need even for joint meetings actually, because what he's saying is a whole shift that he has struggled alone as Nairobi, but it would be something that could come in policy. So that we...
Actually, it is legislative. It is both the PFMA and the PPP Act. They have actually disadvantaged counties, and it is something as a Senate that we need to take up.
Completely. And I'll just give you a quick example, Chair, if you allow. We've raised our revenue in the city to now 13.8 billion shillings a year. It was much lower before. To sort out a lot of the problems in this city, we need maybe an infrastructure support of 20 billion. Yeah. The equitable share you give us from the Senate is 20 billion. So in a year, I have 30, but the one which is assured completely is 20. If I want to get a facility in the bank today of around maybe 10 billion and clear all these pending projects, stall projects, and then get another 20 the next year, I cannot, because PFM says 5% of revenue. Yet, I can be able, the bank will be able to give me a facility that national government guarantees and says from the 20 billion equitable share, we will withhold 1 billion a year. That 1 billion we will pay the bank. So the issue of financing, because the challenge in this city, let me tell you, the challenge in this city is one thing, financing. It is only financing. If you sort out that, of course, there's governance and there's the structure. That's why we're doing the barrows, so that the person dealing with Kayole is not thinking about Westlands, But once we sort out the level of city financing, and I will tell you, because I sit in a class in Harvard with 38 other mayors around the world. You find a mayor with a population of 200,000, a budget of $800 million. The mayor of Paris was here to see me recently, Anna Hidalgo. Her city has 2 million people. Her budget is 1.something trillion, 9 billion euros. I have 7 million people, my budget is 30 billion. The Nairobians, of course, we want Paris level of life, but we're not also paying. So there must be a discussion on financing of especially the capital city. Urban Areas and Cities Act Section 6 talks about it, but the last 13 years of devolution, no progress has been made. So I have a number of proposals I will bring either to the devolution committee or to whichever committee that we need to relook for the city.
Let's come to devolution, but we are happy with that kind of information. Chair, I think we are ready to go to question 14.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Governor, give the response.
Thank you, Chair. The question is on the number of public libraries established in the county, the operational status, staffing levels, and qualifications of personnel managing the libraries, and initiatives aimed at enhancing library services and promoting reading culture. The total number of the public libraries in the county are 5, Chair. Namely Macmillan Library, which is in Banda Street. It's the oldest library actually, possibly the oldest library in the country. Second, which is the oldest? Oh yes, it's the second oldest. The oldest is in Malindi. Macmillan Library. We have Kibera Community Library in Langata. We have Kaloreni Library, Eastlands Library, Wadaka Library. Chair. The status, Macmillan was set for a major facelift in this financial year. There's work being done. If you go to Macmillan Library, you'll find the oldest newspaper in this country from 1904, actually still available. We have kept those records meticulously to date from 1903 or 4 or 6, thereabout. And there's some works that unfortunately stalled in restoring, especially the basement. We're in talks with the Nation Media Group, who have committed to come and discuss with the new CEO to actually support us in restoring, that basement and the archives there. Kaloleni is operational with current and relevant information. There's free Wi-Fi. Eastlands library is state of the art. It is where I took King Charles on his first visit in Kenya. That is where we went to. It is spacious, it has relevant information materials, and we're working with Bookbank, which is an NGO that supports, upgrading of these libraries. Working very well with them. Kibera Library is operational. It's spacious, updated information materials, free Wi-Fi. Modeka Library is operational as well with an updated information material. Chair, the library function was fully devolved. The unbundling of functions gazetted stated that, but the national government again is holding on to 2 libraries that belong to Nairobi County, including the Kenya National Library at Milimani. Of course, there are issues that we don't want to take, like national indexing, and there are certain elements that we don't need to take, but the law should be followed. That library belongs to the county government of Nairobi. We can cooperate it, but still it belongs to us. And also Bure, we have a problem. We want the Senate to intervene on our behalf. Macmillan has 8 staff. Kaloleni has 2, Kibra has 5, Eastlands has 5, Wadaka has 1. That is the staff that we have. But of course, as I've said, we're partnering with this NGO that also sends volunteers and staff, to support, and interns to support. Personnel manning and qualifications, all of them are BSc in information science. Kaloleni and Wadaka is where we have diploma in information sciences. What initiatives are there at enhancing library services and promotion of reading culture among learners and wider community? 1, user education to library users, outreach programs. We have book week events. We have community events. It was very interesting. Even in areas without libraries, we do community. For instance, before we did the river regeneration program, we went with books to Madari and had a river festival that was about reading, and the older generation explained to the children that there used to be fish in this river, and the children saying, we can't imagine that, but let us, so they would start drawing, and there was oral literature that was happening. It was a very beautiful thing to see between the older generation that were in Madare before and those who are there today. We've hosted a lot of collaboration, interviewing scholars. The CNN News have been there. Musical performances. There's an example of Giuliani and Makio. We have monthly book clubs by several groups. I would invite you to be members of at least Macmillan since you're in town. Please come and look at our books. You can borrow a book and return it. And I've just remembered I owe them 1 book I've not returned. The children artworks that we're doing, drawings, dance clubs, public participation, ADP forums are held also along the libraries. And so there are many of such examples, directly and also with our partners. Safaricom, we've partnered with them to train library users, 50 in number, 9 to 13 years old, under Safaricom's Kick to Code program that is ongoing. Introduction of pay bill that has made it convenient for those who, where we need payments done. Feedback channels. There are tour guides. These days there's a lot of urban tourism, and we found some young people very innovative where they bring the tourists, put them in a matatu, and bring them to the CBD, take them to Macmillan, bring them to Eastlands. That even just the matatu tour is part of a cultural experience that many of our tourists are enjoying, when they come to the city. We're empowering women in Eastlands and Kaloleni with our partners. And I think finally is the end of year celebrations where we host 250 children for fun, art, drawing, and there's an annual dinner where we raise funds for our libraries. Chair. The list of visitors. So I don't know whether I should answer the question asked on additional libraries we've done.
Yeah, maybe you could before you go to visitors.
Yeah. we've acquired two of the libraries that had been held, two of the ones held by national government, which is Kibra and Waithaka, which we acquired from AMREF, and we have rehabilitated it. We've not built an additional library yet as a county. We've not been able to do that. We're seeing that what works is having our social halls have a section where in the evening our children can do homework. You find that in many of these settlements, in the house, it's not conducive for a child to do homework or to study. And so in the evenings they come into our social halls that are all across the city. There's a section where they can get books and where they can read. So we've not built physical structures, but we've passed the library, we spread the library function to more areas.
You said you have what? Social halls?
Social halls, our social halls, yeah. And we've built more social halls, yeah. So it's a mixed use. It's not a library per se, because you'll find there's chess being played there, there is table tennis, but you do a section where children can actually come and access books. That is what is working for us. The funds would allow you to build standalone. But another concept that works very well in the city is mobile libraries. Yeah, so a mobile truck that actually moves from place to place, and the children can borrow books, and then it goes to another place, but they have to go with the books home. So it's not a physical space where you come.
I think that is a plan or what you're implementing already?
We're partners who've been implementing that with us. Yeah, we've not. The one studio we built, which was a library and also a recording studio, unfortunately, was burnt down during the protests last year. It was a 40-foot container with those facilities, and it was parked at Uhuru Park. It was burnt completely down, and that was serving both functions, both recording for the arts, music, etc., but also library function. Now there's a group that has brought us a proposal where using the Ndudis, they can actually move estate to estate and have kids borrow books, and then we interact with them and say if someone can recite something, etc. That we're still working on. It's a very novel idea, but which is good because just of the dense nature of the city, you know, that is something we're looking at. We've not yet implemented it with them, but we're currently looking at it. Can I go to VCT?
Chair, can I ask on library?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the chair allow me, because we don't have a committee on museums, and the function on library is closely related to the museums. I would want to know what Nairobi is doing, because you have a lot of rich history. From what you're saying, there is plenty that can be done, even cinemas.
Yes.
Should we do to deliver on cinemas? You then think out of the box, do the activities, and then put a budget. But when you don't have the policy, it's easy for it to fall through the cracks. So I would want to know, museums, do you have any partnerships with the history departments? What are you doing around that, plus the cinemas?
Yeah, so that maybe you can answer both. Can I ask also a question on libraries?
Yeah. Yes, Senator, go ahead.
Yeah, that now, Governor, now that you're saying that it's proper and a good idea to do mobile libraries, I think I'll spruce up that idea so that you implement it. So that if you have a library, maybe a library, and you want to bring books to a school, you can take the books to a school, having a track that is mobile. And then there's another day they come back and collect the books and give new ones. Yeah, it's important so that books are available to the kids.
Thank you very much, Senator. That is it's actually what we're thinking of doing, and we've provided for budgetary provisions to be able to implement that. First, by replacing the mobile one we've had a tussle with insurance. The insurer seems like, and we've reported to the Insurance Regulatory Authority, because we had insured that mobile library to the tune of around 60 million. But the company looks like, I think that company is going under. They have a problem. They have not been able to pay us. We've written to IRA about that specific company, and we've cancelled all contracts with that insurer.
So through you, Chair, Governor, how long do you think this will take? Because that is where my question was coming from, because this...
For the mobile library?
Yes.
Within this financial year, the problem we're having is procurement. There's a big challenge on EGP with most counties, and I think also with national government, given what we had yesterday at the COG meeting with the control of budget. If we're allowed to procure it manually or through the IFMIS system, before EGP we were doing e-procurement as Nairobi, but through IFMIS. If we're allowed to do that, then we can be able to replace at least that in this financial year, because the budgetary provision is there. Otherwise, we are more or less stuck because we can't move. The challenge that we've had, again, is the clawing back of functions that have been unbundled. The museum function has actually been, it was in the Gazette notice by TRC. In fact, what they said was all revenue from museums must be collected by counties. But when we send our officers to the National Museum or to whichever other museum, there is resistance, So we again will come to you, because we don't have a standoff with the national government or a scaffold, like we saw in one of our parks where KFS had come to forcefully take over, and we said no, this park, City Park, belongs to the county. And I'm glad the court ruled that 2 weeks ago, and KFS has left, because they even they created a fake title during NMS time, a fake title deed of City Park by the national government under the Minister of Finance. Yet we have the original title from 1920 something of City Park, as it is, belongs to the county government of Nairobi. So there's a lot of, some of these things we don't say out there because we don't want to politicize the engagement. But before I became a senator, I used to wonder why people say you need to protect devolution. Protecting from who? Now I know you need to protect it, because the default setting, even with well-intentioned people, the default setting in national government is to grow back. Because they think as we are doing Kalongolongo in small governments, they think we're not serious. But really our functions must. So on museums, and I agree Senator Muma, a holistic, and we'll engage even a consultant to actually do a holistic policy, because there are many things to curate. If I show you, for instance, the oldest sign in this country is just down the road here, the railway sign of the height of Nairobi, which is, I always give my guests, a copy of a book that shows you the history of this country. Nairobi was the first Commonwealth city in the world. So even excerpts of the Hansard, where the Duke of Gloucester, who had come here to present Nairobi the first Commonwealth Charter, and in the House of Commons, when the question was asked, why Nairobi, why not Kingston, why not India, and the way Nairobi was described by one of the members of Parliament and the Foreign Secretary at that time, of what Nairobi means to the British Empire. Those are things that we need to curate. If you go to Eastlands, the house of Jaramogi of Ginga Odinga, we're doing up a renewal, but I have preserved that house will not be touched. It must stay like that. We were in Ziwani the other day. In Ziwani, in 1952, Phoebe Asio's house, Tom Mboya, the house where Tom Mboya lived in 1959, where when actually in Phoebe Asio's book, he talks about that house of Tom Mboya and Margaret. In Tom Mboya's house, you would find Julius Nyerere sitting in there with him. And the Mzungu has come because Tom Mboya was collecting money to pay Dennis Pritt. Dennis Pritt was a lawyer of the Kapenguria 6, so he was working with a leather pouch. This same Tom Mboya was a city council worker. There's so much history that if we don't curate, there's the car that I use sometimes, I'm sure you've seen during national functions, that was Charles Rubia's, it's called a Princess, That car is in industrial area in our garage. I want it in City Hall, in a place where children can come and look at it and enter and see it. So I agree. Let's do that policy so that we can deliberately, because we should not depend on the memory or the reading culture of a few people to explain to you. And some of the people who would tell us this, I would sit with the late former Prime Minister and he would give me stories about what this estate meant. If you go to Burma, what happened in 1952 after the state of emergency was that they killed a councillor called Mbutela because they wanted the Kikuyus and the Luos to fight. So Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and Tom Mboya would go around Makongeni telling the Luos, don't fight, we are being set up. The next year, they killed another councillor, Lumumba, and banned Ant Farmer Market to create an uprising between the two communities. It didn't work. The story of where we're sitting today, this was a church, you know. This and where Parliament is, it was called the Tin Tabernacle. That in 1910 thereabout, because the Mzungu didn't want to be in the same church with an African, the government bought land and sent the Mzungu to All Saints Cathedral where it is today, and sent the black person to St. Stephen's, Jogo Road. And that's why this land became available for Parliament. Parliament even does not know its history. So if I start, I won't finish. There's so much on museums and the history of this city that we definitely need to curate, and that's something we'll be very happy to participate with. I've spoken to one, John Kamau. He writes on the Nation about history, and he's a historian at the University of Toronto in California, but he's a Kenyan. And so we should be able to do something very soon along that line. But I agree, Senator Moa, without the policy, I forget that and I start dealing with potholes and garbage. So the urgency of day-to-day makes you stop thinking of such deep things.
If there were policy, you will be reminded by your chief officers. So, senators, please let's make a move. Please let's move to the question 16. 15.
Thank you, Chair. Question 15. The list of vocational training centers, we have 11 VTCs. And Annex 13 has the list, and then they have become very popular because we have now introduced driving. So some of even what we're giving as bursaries to directly at least 1 million per ward must go directly. That's 85 million to these vocational training centers. That's what we've agreed with the Education Committee in the County Assembly. Enrollments by gender and course, the fees charged per student, payments from parents, county government, and development partners. We have listed the enrollment at close of second term was 1,114 trainees. We have set aside 71 million support trainees in the financial budget, plus the 85 million that will come when bursaries are able to resume. Affirmative action provided to disadvantaged populations, including persons living with disabilities and residents of informal settlements, in order to access the vocational training, specifying how VTCs integrate learners with disabilities. In collaboration with Girl Child Network, we've made 8 VTCs to be PWD friendly, providing ramps and wide doorways to accommodate wheelchairs and mobility aids. The adapted washrooms fitted with grab bars and wider cubicles. We've worked with Catholic Relief Services, CRS, and our Wezesha Vijana projects, given opportunity to vulnerable trainees in 5 of the VTCs, as well as Safaricom Foundation, Chair, additionally. And Chair, many people don't know the building code has been upgraded, but we have a KEBS standard in this country through the Bureau of Standards on disability access. And so on top of the VTCs, even works on walkways, how the walkways end, how the ramps are to accept wheelchair, the size of the doors of even buses or mass transit have already been specified under the KEBS Act, but many agencies, including national government and many counties, do not realize that because that needs to be implemented. Yet another thing for us to look at. Finally, the skills training provided in vocational training centers, including future plans, targets, lessons learned, and challenges faced during implementation. The 11 VTCs and 1 HCC train in a range of courses, artisan and trade test. Courses are examined by NITA and the National Examination Council, and soon transition into TVET CDSCC. So all of that, Chair, is an Annex 14. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Senator Muma.
My traditional question again. Your Excellency, again, if you had a VTC policy, your department would be forced to know what is your catchment population like. So we would want, I'm sure if we stayed longer, we'd ask you how many of your Nairobi learners did not transition from secondary, I don't know, let me just use the old school, from primary and secondary schools into tertiary institutions. How many have not been accounted for? How many others have become Nairobi population because they came from Kitui, Kakamega and all of that? And therefore, how are you designing the VTCs to be able to take this. And what we are finding as a committee, that governors have not taken the VTC function seriously. And yet, that is where the crux of the matter is in creating skills for jobs for young people in this country. So we would want to urge that this be taken seriously. We think the monies you're pouring in bursaries should actually be going to this function. You should actually be helping the nation to support this group that is falling through the cracks. And I would want to know also, in Nairobi, you have a lot of the big industries. But there is the national government, what do you call the program? Is it CAPS? Whatever it is. The industrial, the creation of the industrial parks by counties where the national government is putting in some money and you're putting in some money. Beyond the traditional industry that we have, a lot of it manufacturing for export. What is Nairobi thinking through? Given I believe you have the largest number of young people who need to be skilled, and therefore you might want to add additional industry.
Thank you, Senator Kamar. Let us have all the questions, and then you can answer. Senator Kamar, please.
Governor, I think you have been asked about the transition thing that really worries us as a committee. When you talk of transition and you talk of only 11 PTCs, 12 maybe, in Nairobi, Wasingishu has 14. And we are demanding more. Trans Nzoia has 32. I just want to give you the figures, the places we visited recently. Elgeyo Marakwet, 18. The population is in Nairobi. The buildings that are going on in Nairobi are so many. So it is costing you immigrants from other countries that are coming for labor jobs. Because if you don't have enough masons and you have a lot of buildings in Nairobi, then people have to migrate. Then it gives pressure to your water issues. It gives this thing of urban migration. You are attracting it completely just by not having enough of this here. So you become a victim of that kind of thing. So I'm asking myself, 11? I started 11, Your Excellency, when I was a member of parliament. Because I came from the university and discovered that most of my students were not going to university. So they were hanging somewhere. Most of my primary kids were not going anywhere. So I told myself, I set aside money from CDF. And I decided I was going to, when I read the two which were being closed. So I revived those two and shifted completely. Two of them, as you are talking of transition, two of my VTCs were transited to TTIs. And that was a constituency. Of course, they have lived a life of up and down. Even when we went there, some of the things were not very impressive. But I'm talking of population and transition, as Senator Muma is saying. You have offloaded from class 8s into the streets, and then we have also offloaded from 4s into the streets, because the passing rate of Nairobi to university is not more than 30%.
You know, there are those 11, but there are also 309 Tibets. There are so many private facilities in addition. Of course, we as a county should build more, but it's not that there are only 11 places of vocational training.
But what is that? What are they? You know, they are TTIs. We are not talking about TTIs.
No, the Tibets are doing vocational training through Tibet on plumbing, engineering, mechanics, masonry,
this thing called what do we call that certificate? The lowest certificate of NITA. Trade test 3, 2, and 1 is what was given to the governor, so that you take care of your class 8. Those who are exiting class 8, because we don't have enough secondary schools.
And the population in informal settlements who cannot afford those big.
We need more. Just add me money, I will build them.
You have money. That is why we are protecting your money from going to bursary.
Yeah.
You're giving a bursary to a university student. You are giving a bursary to a scholarship to a university. Why 10 an hour? Those ones will go on the streets for themselves. You know, they go to the streets and they vent for themselves. Our worry is this one who left class 8. He's in Nairobi street, informal sector. If there is no VTC in an informal sector in Nairobi,
for the churches, there's that the 11 plus another 40 that are private. But I completely agree with you on that issue of you know, if you help us, because you see we do bursaries because the need is so clear and there's a gap left by the national government. If they can actually make education free completely for primary and secondary. Completely.
Governor, we are with you there as a Senate.
We'll put all that money.
We are with you there as a Senate. What we are asking is let the money follow the functions. So if you want to give bursaries, please ask the national government to give you the money. What we want is let the money follow the function. Yeah, Senator Maruma. Maybe as Senator Maruma comes on, you could also give us the number of secondary schools in Nairobi.
Chair, been waiting before Senator Maruma.
Number 16. On the affirmative action provided to disadvantaged populations, including persons living with disabilities and residents of informal settlements. In your answer, I have seen adaptation to do with ramps and wide doorways and washroom access, but the actually learning, the skilling has not been captured. You know, the PWDs don't go through the normal curriculum of pre-primary, primary, what is it called, junior school, senior school. They go through initial numeracy and literacy, and then they transit to pre-vocational, then they go to vocational. So in answering this, you really need to tell us what they are learning in the content. Yes, the content, and how you are adapting in teaching the deaf, the blind. You know, what skills are they learning? That's what we need really here, so that everybody can be able to learn skills.
Senator Kavindu.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My question was. It has disappeared.
Have I derailed you? You can think about it as he answers. Okay. Sorry for that.
Let me answer so I can answer.
Okay. Senator Kinyo?
Okay. I'm looking at the fees that is being paid to these VTCs. They are different. Then, even if the reason then you have very few VTCs is because even in some VTCs, I'm looking at Jericho. I'm reading page 523. Jericho has only 6 learners. 8. In fact, 8 learners. Kahawa Garrison VTC, I thought because it's army, there's no access, we only have 6. And in Jericho, we have 8. So there's no need of even increasing. You need these people to increase the number of
the numbers.
Yeah.
You know one thing.
Chair, I have it now. I can answer that. I can answer.
And the last one, before Kavindu comes, are these fees dependent on what course that the person is doing? Like, for example, a person doing mechanic will be charged at the same fees with the person doing hairdressing. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mudama, please.
Yeah, the governor is saying that they need funds, but right now they are not giving bursaries because the controller of budget has stopped them. That money which was going for bursaries, it can build this VTC classes in our centers.
They have not received it. The bursary and scholarship program has come back, and you see, you need to see the context. That you see, the budget also is a process. Budget making is political. It's a process that goes through the county assembly, where 124 MCAs who also have pressure because of this gap created by the faction who is supposed to do it not doing it. So they have pressure from the ground of the people saying, when the former MCA used to make sure that we get bursaries, now we're not getting. So it's a very political thing as well. I have pressure from those who already were on a scholarship program. If you're committed to pay somebody's fees from Form 1 to Form 4 and then it drops at Form 3 or Form 2, it is not right to just let go of them. So bursary is not something that can just be left out. It must, we must be pragmatic in how we deal with it practically. I agree. These vocational training centers are too few. I completely agree with you. They are too few. This is a challenge that you're saying that, you're preaching to the choir. I was your chair of labor in this house. I believe that...
Well, is your vice chair.
And you are my vice chair, yes. Senator Maruma. When I was a member of parliament, I created a law. I proposed a law called the National Employment Authority. That was my bill that created that institution. If you look at how we set up the board of the National Employment Authority, because I did 2 laws that were, for me, monumental. The first law I did was to bring 30% procurement opportunities. AGPO was my amendment in 2015 when I was an MP. AGPO was to make sure that 30% of opportunities in the public sector go to youth, women, and persons with disability. That if we can't give you a job or make sure you get employment, we can help you get an opportunity to do some biashara. So the first one was AGPO. The second bill I did, that President Uhuru Kenyatta sent it to, he first sent a memorandum asking for a transition in the Ministry of Labor. And we agreed with it. It was National Employment Authority. And let me tell you why. It was because, number one, we realized that too many of our young people, I've seen those students here, they're in high school. If you ask them what they want to do when they finish school, they have no clue. Or they just want to do what they think has money. In fact, these days everyone is doing procurement. I don't know why. For obvious reasons. We needed career guidance in schools to match the temperament. There are certain things you built with, God has given you from the time you're a child, that will make you be a good doctor, that needs to be built on and to be seen when you're around that age of teenage, and then you align. That's why you see some people that are just good at what they do. Number 2, many of us are victims of the Joint Admissions Board. The careers we find ourselves in are not because of the skills we had or what we wanted to do. It's just because that was what the universities had. So if you look at that law, in the board, there's the technical institutions, the TVETs, there is the universities, because what you're doing is we're postponing people's unemployment for 4 years. If you see the university churning out 1,000 people in anthropology every year, even actuaries, which I studied, you're churning out thousands of actuaries the country does not need. What are you doing? You're postponing unemployment. So in this National Employment Authority, we were supposed to have the employers, through the Federation of Kenya Employers, we were supposed to have a private sector alliance, the universities, the technical colleges, to sit and say, what skills does our country need, so that we change the curriculum and the content and the courses in our schools, including the VTC. So I agree with you. The second thing it was to do, it was of course to do, and which has become the biggest thing it does, labor migration. That's the only thing NEA is doing now. On people going to Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, that is the only thing it is doing. But the other thing it was supposed to do was to create a database of skills available. The way, if you want today to get an Uber, you go to your phone and say, I want to move from CBD to Westlands. I should be able to say, if I want a plumber, I just go to my phone, I find somebody certified around me by government and engage them from nearby. And then there was a training component. If we sort out the NEA Act and implement it as the spirit that was there before, we'd solve all of these issues. So I agree. There is no plumber who has no work in this country. there's always work. There is no mason who misses work, but we need to build more of these facilities. That one I concede. We are not doing as well as we should. We should actually increase the number of these facilities, and that's something I commit to do. When I come next year, you will see a change in terms of allocations and what we've been able to construct based on the resources that we have. I think the issue of PWD's access, content and what they're being taught, I can have my CC respond to that and the numbers kindly. But please look at NEA. Look at that law. It has the potential to sort out.
Policy.
There was a policy.
You have a policy? No. I'm saying yourself. You haven't committed to the policy.
No. The policy we don't have yet because we're doing it concurrently with the Act. And the Act is still going on. But it's something we need to fast track. The policy on vocational training. I agree.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to appreciate this honorable committee. I want to talk about the number of secondary schools that we have in Nairobi, the 180 number. About the PWD, we are using brailles for visually impaired persons. Then we provide the sign language in our VTC for even during the national examination. Then for the physically impaired, most of the courses that we're offering are friendly to them, so they have a chance to be part of our organization. Then you ask about the courses that we are providing and the cost that at the same time. The fees differ depending on the type of the course. If you're doing an artisan or craft or mechanical, there is total different fee that you're supposed to pay. It only depends with the duration and the kind of course that you are taking. So from different levels, we providing like for the motor vehicle, mechanical, you will see it's ranging per term for about 15,000 per term. So the total amount that they pay per year, with the course runs for a duration of 1 year, is 40,000. So it keeps on changing. That one I submit, Madam Chair.
So do you have, maybe just as an addition, do you have a specific VTC which is training the PWDs? So that if you wanted to visit today, you can go and see the disabled undergoing training.
Yes.
Which one is that?
I can always ask you anytime you visit the Dora VTC and Waithaka, you will always find that we're offering the same services to persons living with disability.
Yes, Professor?
Yeah, I just wanted to know from the governor, what kind of support is being given to these VTCs? Is it school fees or capitation? Number two, I wanted the governor to know that there are some governors who are giving free. We have just come from Tanzania, where they have capped the cost of any training to 20,000. And the county government pays 18, and the parents pay only 2,000. Just came from the airline.
That is commendable.
Yeah.
It's something we can look at. You know, the Bible says, as iron sharpens iron, so does man sharpen man. If there's a good idea around county, it's something good. Yeah.
But what are you currently paying?
So we do budgetary provisions and fees. So for instance, we did, is it 71? 71 million shillings. Then for instance, from the bursaries, we say that 1 million.
1 million is what per student? Capitation per student or for
calculate it.
Or what is it?
It's capitation. It's more or less capitation. Because we do 100 million for the ECDs and then 71 for the VTCs and then another 85 million now from what. So each ward, we have 85 wards, has 7 million for bursary, but one of that million is to the VTCs. So that is 85 and 71. Then now the fees that are charged by, by the different schools for the different courses. Then now that makes up the three sources of funding for the VTCs.
And do you have any partners in these VTCs?
Yes.
And what is the extent of their contribution?
Some of our partners, the first partner is Culture Network. They have really helped us in terms of the infrastructure. Then the second one is Catholic Relief Services. Then there's the World Vision. There's the Kenya Good Neighbors. They've done for us a block in Dandora, Greenlight College. Then there's Shofco, the Shining Hope for Communities. That have been our instrumental partners when it comes to VTC issues. Thank you.
Do you give startup kits to those who graduate from your centers?
Yes, that's what we do. Especially for those who are graduating, we always give out the startup kits so that they can start something when they go back to the society.
Any proof of you doing that? Because Governor, this is very important. Let the Nairobi people know that you're doing that. It might even attract more students, so more learners. So I don't know whether you have any, do you have any information on it in your document?
And while answering that, can they tell us whether they're in this KCB? KCB seems to be doing a lot in the rural counties.
Everyone is running away going to rural counties, and the need is here. You know, this is where there's a population, as you said. We can be able to provide that information.
Please let us have it.
You know, when the governor pays a courtesy call to an MD of a bank, they will clean the carpet.
I'll try. They're just here at Kemcom. I'll go visit them. I'll talk to them.
Please give us that information. It's very important. Governor, the reason why we were asking about transition is because if you have 180 secondary schools and 11 VTCs, and I'm sure maybe percentage of transition to the university will be 30%. So can you imagine how many other young people you are offloading to the streets? You need to skill them so that at least they can be useful to themselves and even to you and lessen your burden.
I agree. We'll go out there to look for support to build more. The need is there. It is seen. The lack of this absorbing of young people affects everyone. That's, you know, if you look at crime rate, now everybody, when they finish school and they don't go to university or the college, what do? They get either into crime, or they try and get a motorbike, you know, to ride. It's a challenge that I think needs to be faced head on, and we have made a compelling case, and I agree with you.
And Governor, I think also you should look at your enrollment, because as a county you should have deliberate campaign to actually make people be aware that these colleges are there, and that also will help in this county. Honorable Senators.
Maybe just last two for me.
Okay.
You know, I've heard the governor saying that the bursaries are back. That is news to me, because the last time the control of budget was not releasing funds to counties. Has she finally accepted the agreements under, is it 187 or 189? 189 on the cooperation between counties. 187 of course will be transferred.
You know, functions. Yesterday we had a meeting at the COG with it was a virtual meeting, and the controller had said there's a list of requirements that she had put for that to resume. And as I've explained, for me, my biggest challenge is those who are already on scholarship. So those requirements, once they're met, counties can be able to issue bursaries and scholarships. She's looking at it as almost a transfer, the intergovernmental agreement. So it's almost a transfer of, or a sharing. Because if you transfer it, it means then the money must come.
Yes.
From the national 187 says that first of all, the constitutional responsibility remains with the level of government that is originally mandated to perform that function, and the funding must then also follow it. And so it's a very convoluted argument. That's why I was saying all we're doing is just being pragmatic because of the pressure from the people to continue serving them in that manner, especially those who have been cut off midstream. But that is what she asked for. So what is left is a notification to the County Assembly and the National Assembly. We've done our County Assembly notification. We've gazetted that intergovernmental agreement for counties. Makueni, Nairobi, Murang'a, and I don't know, I keep forgetting the fourth one.
Chair, I think we need an urgent consultation with the control of budget.
I've just informed.
Because I'm not aware.
I've just informed our researcher that that is urgent, that we need to be informed so that we can be well conversant with their conversation with the COG.
But you know, it's really, if you look at it critically, constitutionally, it is not a transfer of functions. If you transfer a function, the function first of all must be stated in the fourth schedule of the constitution. There's no function called bursary or scholarship in the fourth schedule. you have not transferred education, because if you transfer the function of education, it means that then that county that signs that intergovernmental agreement must also pay the teachers, must provide all the services of that function called education. So it's a very convoluted and warped, I find it to be warped logic.
No, Governor, what you're trying to do is pay the bill for the national government. To pay the bill for the national government...
Partially, because the bill is bigger.
No, you're trying to pay it their bill nonetheless.
You see...
So when you take over the function of the other level, the resources as planned by under the constitution is that the resources, remember the resource follow function mantra, the resources that were the equitable share for Nairobi County is budgeted for do not include resources for secondary education, do not include resources for university. So for you to take over that function, you are actually paying the bill for national government. The correct position, as I first told you, there is no function called social protection. So you are using some convoluted arrangement around social protection, cooperation, collaboration to justify. But the correct position is this: governors can, and the late party leader actually suggested that the function should come to counties. So until the function has come to counties, you can assist the national government only through conditional grants. They allow you to give those bursaries, but they must give you the money.
You know, I agree with you 100% philosophically and in principle.
But practically, what you are trying to do, you are helping them kill devolution.
But let's help the governor to tell us what the first two governors told us. They said this thing is pressure from the ground.
No.
It has nothing to do with the functions of Schedule 4. At that time, I think this social whatever had not been developed. But when the first two governors came here, they said, we must tell you that we are the ones suffering on the ground because the public is on the ground and the national government is miles away. So we agreed that, but we said, when you go for your summit, please discuss this function so that it is formally devolved, and then the money follows the function. That is all we have been saying.
You know,
we can see we are insisting on why Nairobi can sit with 11 VTCs. It is so painful because it means Nairobi is filling the streets with kids that are not literate, kids that are semi-skilled, and now we are at risk because Nairobi is doing a lot of buildings and we have a lot of fake masons there also. Because when they come in, a contractor will say, where's Shiga is, Shiga Mawa, Shiga, instead of skilling them.
You know, in principle, I agree. But practically, and I think what the Prime Minister was saying, which is true, you see, what is devolution? Devolution is based on the principle of subsidiarity. The principle of subsidiarity is so simple. It's just that a function is best offered at the lowest level compatible with the benefit of that function. We are better placed as counties to run with that education. We are better placed, we understand the needs of where we are. So actually what we need to have is a full transfer. But this one, what we have is a mongrel. You know, it is half German Shepherd, half Bosco. You know.
Thank you. Yes, Senator Mudama.
Yeah, Governor, even as you are these VTCs in Nairobi, and you've invited us to come, which we also to visit. We visited some of the counties and we found that they didn't have any equipment in these VTCs. So, as you rebuild more, equip the ones which are there. If it's mechanic, make sure that there is a vehicle there they are dealing with. If it's electrical, make sure that they have all the electrical equipments. And even masonry, make sure that they have all the equipments that they need there to do their work and to learn efficiently. Thank you.
And I want to assume those are your closing remarks.
No, but have we started closing remarks because there's one question here? or number 17.
Okay,
That the county is now shifting from NITA to NEC to TVET SIDAC. We are not there already. What are the challenges? When do we see ourselves having TVET SIDAC examination?
I'll ask my director to respond to that.
Thank you, Chair. The challenge was the training of the retooling of the instructors, and that has already been done, and now we are going to move fully to SIDAC. Thank you.
Are you satisfied, Senator? Okay. Senator, can you please give your closing remarks?
Madam Chair, I'm looking at some of these VTCs. They are not registered and TVETA. I don't know what that would mean. But Madam Chair, everybody here is talking about increasing without looking at numbers of enrollment. It doesn't make sense. You're telling the governor to increase the number of VCTs, but when I do average of the 12 that he has, the number of students in every VCT is 90. So why are we talking about increasing the numbers instead of us talking of enrollment? Because if you look somewhere, a place like Kiwanja, we have only 24 students. I'm reading page 523. If you look at, but that one, the numbers again are confirmed. If you look at page 522, many of them are not registered under TVETA. If you look at numbers, Kiwanja has 24. You go straight to Jericho. So Kahawa Garrison has 6. Jericho has 18. You go to Old Mathare, and I thought Mathare you have many people. The one that you, Vice Chair, you're saying they will be criminals. You only have 20. 20. You have 20. You go to Moja, VCT.
That has to be withdrawn. Let's not characterize people from any part.
Okay, sorry. I withdraw and apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't want to say that. Sorry. I withdraw. No. I agree. I withdraw and apologize. But I'm dealing with the numbers. So, Madam Chair, let us talk about enrollment.
Senator, I think I'd asked the governor.
I asked that question. Yeah. I asked that question, it was not answered.
Okay, then maybe you could answer, because I also asked what he's doing, whether he's got a deliberate effort to enhance the enrollment in this.
The challenge is, now we even have universities offering some of these artisan courses. And somebody, for instance, Kiwanja is next to KU. Would you prefer a certificate from Kiwanja or from Kenyatta University?
And also they get capitation.
So also, some of these institutions should leave this to a different level, because you can get it from the technical university here, or you go to Old Mathare. It's a walking distance. Where will you go to?
That's where
so we can do our campaign, increase the capacity.
Yes.
But still, once that is done, let's have a distinction.
Yeah, you have said it differently from the way another governor said it. He said, can you stop universities from doing this certificate? So we want you to give us those kind of suggestions so that we rain on the minister to make sure that they have structure, without giving up.
We can phase it out.
So that without giving up on these young ones, we can actually encourage them and tell them we are the only ones giving you the best SIDAC course. And because now, what TVET is doing now is going for the unit only. When you do plumbing, it's plumbing only, and they're removing the theories. Universities have too much theories. And if they convert themselves again to teach the way the TVETA is proposing, then they are ruining everybody else. So we wanted to go the other way and tell us, can you stop these characters from invading
I would not want an immediate stop, because then I have only your 11. It is a gradual phasing out as we build that capacity. But secondly, I think the language of leaders. When you tell people, kama umeanguka mtihani, enda kwa hii, No one wants to be seen going to that place.
That is why it was changed from village polytechnic
Because
to vocational
you make it
training
look like
centers.
ukienda huko you're a failure, and then stigmatizing. But if you go to countries like Germany, the top students, the ones who do the best, are the ones who go to do this, technical works. It's the other way around,
Chair, I think, Governor, it begins with your policy.
Yeah.
If you get the information, the data, you'll be able to know, one, this is our catchment area. Two, we need to do advocacy. Three, your department should be able to tell you we have 80 universities around Nairobi, and 50 of them are offering this at this level. And then you decide what is the value proposition that I'm going to put to my public VTCs that will bring the most needy to come to this particular VTC. So it always begins with policy. It gives you data, it gives you the information that will enable you to plan for the situation.
And I think also, Governor, you could be much better off if you had many learners, you'd be dealing with the issue of stigma, like a county like Makueni. Makueni, actually, stigma of these kids being in vocational training centers, wearing uniforms and all that is an issue. But the enrollment is very high.
And you see, it's because you don't have universities there. You don't have other colleges in Makueni or in Trans Nzoia. I have a village home in Trans Nzoia. There's no alternative. But in this city, every 2 steps is a college and a university on top of a bar, even next door here is a university.
That is agreeable.
Yeah, there are 3 around here.
It's agreeable. That's understandable. That's agreeable, Governor. So, Honorable Senators, I think you did your closing remarks. Please, if you're not.
I have to say that I'm impressed by the presentation of Governor of Nairobi, and I want to commend him on the feeding program. It is the best thing that you are doing to the students of Nairobi, and congratulations. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Madama.
I just want to congratulate the governor for the good work that you are doing, and remember that you are from the Senate, so don't let the Senate down. Keep up doing the good work, because you know what you ought to do. Actually, we should, when you come here, you appear before the Senate, you should just be flowing with whatever questions which are there, and congratulations for that, but check on your water issues.
Senator Marango.
Hata mimi ningetaka kumpa kongole gavana kwa kupambana. Unajua kuwa gavana Nairobi na si kwa mbaya, lakini tukiangalia gavana Nairobi, gavana wa Lamu na kwingine, hapa lazima ufanye kazi na ni ngumu. Na pia unajua Nairobi pia watu ni vichwa ngumu, sio kama kwingine. Kwa hivyo kupambana unapambana. Yenye ningekuuliza gavana ni kwamba kwa sababu wewe ulisomea chekechea hii, nimekwambia Lang'ata. Sijui kama nitarudi huko tena kwa sababu nilikuwa naona yuko hapa na ashatoka, lakini wewe uko na nafasi ya kwenda pale uangalie venye mambo iko pale, kwa sababu Lang'ata ni jela ya kimataifa na pia watoto wengi wanazaliwa pale, wengi wanapelekwa pale. Uende utathmini na iweze kuangalia ile maneno iko hapo. Nikimalizia pia naweza sema ni kweli kwamba kuna mabadiliko katika sekta ya maji Nairobi, kwa sababu kuna mahali naishi na najua imekuwa kizungumkuti, lakini hata kama sisi ambao tumetoka kaunti ambazo ziko kule bado tuna matatizo kama hayo. Lakini endelea kupambana na hiyo hali kuhakikisha kwamba pia umefaulu. Ya mwisho kabisa, ni ngumu sana kushindana na wewe kwa sababu unaelezea na unapitisha. Tungependa pia tukuje tuangalie, kujionea sisi wenyewe wakati tutapanga mkutano kamati, utuonyeshe tukiwa huko sasa huko ambapo kazi imefanyika. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti.
Thank you, Senator Muma.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Just to say that I'm happy at the conversation we've had today. The clarity of mind you have, even as we have pointed out the issues that we think you need to point out. I think your comms team needs to do a better job in terms of communicating what you're doing, in my view. Senator Kavindu says she's proud of you because you are part of the Senate. I need to add, apart from being part of the Senate, maybe your DNA is not bad. So just to thank you, but to ask that as by the time we come, I would request the issues where we found gaps, trigger your teams to immediately begin on that, so that next year at this time we have a better report to give around Nairobi in terms of the little things that we raised.
Thank you, Senators. Vice Chair.
Thank you. I think, like the other senators who worked with him have said, at least he has not disappointed. I'm glad he apologized at the beginning, because it's not like Sakaja to skip things. That is not his nature, and I was very surprised. But the kind of information you have at the fingertips tell us that you were not fearing to appear. So I think we are happy with that. Governor, the only last statement I would have said is that you check the numbers. Let's check the figures that are outside, which should be accommodated in ECD, so that we don't leave them out, whether they're in informal or formal settlement areas. Please pay focus on them, because you leave a wonderful legacy if the informal sector will be your greatest supporters at the end of your term, whether one or two, because those are people that you change once and for all, and let's have them also have their children going as far as university. Also the same thing with the VTCs. Please, let's focus on the numbers who are outside, not those who are inside. How many would have loved to come in? And it looks like it requires a deliberate campaign, even in high schools and secondary schools. Once in a while, as they're having education days, you walk in, or your officers walk in to talk to them about this course. That should not be taken as though village polytechnic is the worst thing. If you can empower them, you will change. And we have seen that where there is that kind of motivational speeches, speaking to these people, they actually change and they go back. As you started, I want to comment on that, that yes, education is the only equalizer. And if you can give to the low and the high at the same time, it will really be very beneficial. Otherwise, thank you so much for the information. I think we have got a lot of information to digest.
Thank you. Maybe before I close, Your Excellency, I can give you a chance to also have your closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Chair and honorable senators, starting with my Deputy Speaker and Senator Muma, Senator Rango, Senator of my neighbor, Senator from Machakos, and Senator Kinywa. You know, somebody said you campaign in poetry and you govern in prose. When you're in the Senate, which I was in, it is very easy to say to a governor, this is not happening, this is not happening. And I was very vocal. I was one of the loudest senators. When you get to the driving seat, every morning I wake up, I am a doctor, an engineer, it has rained, I'm a teacher, I'm a chef, I must cook for the children, there's a pothole, you are, everything in one. And I keep saying that to be a governor is the best testing ground for any job on earth, because you must have the mind of a CEO, the heart of a social worker, you must have the resilience of a politician, thick skin, innocence of a dove, and shrewdness of a snake, all in one person. And so I'm very grateful, because today's meeting has really helped me in areas that maybe I had not looked at as much as I can, because of the immediacy of challenges. I'm looking at the weather and I'm seeing it's going to flood, and immediately, and it will flood on Akura Road and Akena Road, but Sakaja is blamed. That's another thing Senate must look at. If they don't give us the funds, all these roads which are problems, Jogo Road, Langata Road, this one outside, they're not under the counties. I think it's time, and I would want to work on, I'll take some time, maybe a few days, to work on a paper that I would want to come with to the Senate. even maybe through COG, on areas that I've seen have gaps in devolution, so that you can support. Because those are areas where you will find now, casualties in counties, not because of their own doing, but because of the structural, challenges or systemic issues that come with devolution. I want to assure you that you will see a marked improvement on these areas. Again, I am sorry that I missed the other meeting. I would never, normally I'm told when I'm called to Senate, first of all, the media are more than usual. I don't know why, but I like them. They're my friends, and there is quorum. And so when people have come from different parts of the country and then you're not there, it was not something of my doing. And I thank you that you accepted that apology, because when I put in my office, they kept that summons on my desk until yesterday. So please, this thing is giving me a bad feeling. Can you take it out of my? I've seen it. You can't keep it just hanging there on my desk. And it's not something that I would want to happen again. So please, we will welcome you to the city. Don't come with one of your colleagues I saw fighting somebody somewhere. That one we will not accept him, because I like how we are very pragmatic. This oversight is to help. It is to grow. It is to support. It is not. It's not a disciplinary process. It's a process to support. When I have my officers here, they can hear the questions that are being asked and where we need to pull up our socks. So that we will do. Thank you for the compliments on the school feeding and all the compliments. We will keep doing it, and we hope that we can cover many more schools. So let's keep it up. Senator Catherine, Senator Auntie, I can't just call her Senator without giving her the respect. One of the words I'm living with is policy. Policy. And as a senator, that is exactly what I would ask a governor. And we have a department that has actually been preparing a lot of draft policies. I need to look at what they have. And I agree, once you have policy, then the immediacy and urgency of what happens today and tomorrow can be handled while dealing with medium to long term issues that are of a systemic nature and structural nature. So thank you so much for that advice, and we will consult you. I don't know as a senator if you can do, because you're a very good consultant on some of these things, even in your previous engagement. You can guide us on the right way to go, whether we work with Kipra. Oh, wonderful.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Senator.
You've asked that. I was going to offer that and tell you that you can consult her. Governor, one reason why you say that the press is always full house and there's full house in the room is because we want to remind you we are also residents of Nairobi. So whatever you're doing, that's what we consume, and we are here actually not as much as we are senators, we're also the residents of this great city of Nairobi. I also want to thank you, and maybe just tell you, Governor, let's avoid negative publicity. You are a senator, and I think you can agree how important a conversation that we've had a day like today has been so productive, so informative. We've learned from you, you've learned from us, from what we've seen in other counties, and from that we can help each other build this country. And I think I'm happy that you appreciate how important it is to take care of the young ones especially. In fact, I'm happy that as we keep on saying, formation time starts from 4 years to 7. You're even going further from the beginning, so that is very important. And I think to us, it is important that we had this conversation today, and we want to assure you that in very near future, we are going to visit quite a number of your facilities so that we can see what you've given us on paper is what is on ground. Honorable Senators, allow me to thank the Senate of Nairobi, because for once, let's appreciate that his engagement with the governor was very cordial and very productive, and he gave us insights of where he thinks there are problems, and the governor has been able to answer him on site that whatever is happening is exactly how it is, and whatever is not happening is going to be done. Thank you once again, Honorable Your Excellency Governor. Thank you, Honorable Senators. The meeting stands adjourned until Tuesday. Thank you.